Shalom. My name is Adam, and I welcome you to the parable of the Vineyard. Every day, Yahweh is waking up a remnant, a group of people who are coming out of deceptions, realizing our walk is to consist of faith and obedience to His righteous commands. Each week, we read through and examine a portion of the Torah, allowing the Spirit of the Most High to guide, teach, and open our eyes and ears to the wondrous matters out of His law. Join us as we seek to be refined by His Word, preparing ourselves for the return of our King of Kings, being faithful and obedient, walking in His way, truth, and life. Shabbat Shalom and welcome back, brothers and sisters. Welcome to the Parable of the Vineyard. My name is Adam and I welcome you. This is week 16 of our Torah portion reading and study, which is going to cover Exodus 13:17 through 17:16. And this is some of the most amazing, dramatic stories ever written. When I say stories, I mean true stories, true history. Of course, the parting of the Red Sea, leaving Egypt. Just an amazing Torah portion. So one of the most fascinating, one of the most adventurous, if you will. So I'm looking forward to go over this with you, and I hope it's a blessing. So let's pray real quick, and we'll get to shofar blowing, and we'll get to the study. Heavenly Father, Yahweh Most High, we just come before you, and we bless you and praise you. Thank you for pulling us out of the world, even though we're in it, Father. We know that we're not of it. And we just thank you for the example you've given us through your son, Yahusha, and the offering he's offered for us to be reconciled and to be healed and to be renewed and to be forgiven, oh Yah. And we just we thank you so much and ask you to help us to understand your word as we read it, that we may understand it and apply it to our lives and to walk according to your righteous commands. In Yahusha's mighty name, amen, hallelujah. Thank you, oh Yah. Thank you for the Shabbat, best day of the week. So got a couple scriptures I just wanted to share just before we get into the Torah portion. 2 Timothy 3:14 through 17 says, "But continue you in the things which you have learned and has been assured of, knowing of whom you have learned them, and that from a child you have known the holy scriptures, which are able to make you wise unto salvation through faith, which is in Messiah Yahushua." Now, just real quick, when Paul wrote this, there was no New Testament yet, so he's referring to the Old Testament. He's referring to the Torah, the prophets, the writings, which, honestly, everything we read about, the prophets, the writings, the New Testament, everything points back to the Torah, which is the foundation and the basis of all of what's right and what's not right. And so that's why we're studying this, as we're studying the Torah, because everything points to the Torah, that this is the Father's way. This is His heart. This is what He's commanded us to do. And if we want to be in His kingdom, these are the rules that we abide by. So we want to learn them now. So all Scripture is given by inspiration of Elohim and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, that the man of Elohim may be perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works. Now, I'll tell you, I am not perfect, but I want to be. And so I want to heed Paul's exhortation here to continue in the Scriptures for doctrine, reproof, correction, instruction in righteousness, and that we're supposed to move on to perfection, as Hebrews 6 also states. Isaiah 28:9 through 13 says, he's asking the question, the Most High is like, who am I going to teach knowledge? And whom shall He make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast. So people that are moving on from the very basics of, okay, I got to believe to be saved. I have to have faith to be saved. Okay, great. Let's move on. When I say move on, not move on past that. You never move past what you learned in your elementary, what you learned in elementary school. You don't forget when you move on to higher education. And so in a similar way, we don't leave the primary doctrines of baptism, laying on of hands, faith, but we move on to perfection. So for precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here little and there little. This is how we like to organize our studies. For with stammering lips and another tongue will He speak to this people, to whom He said, this is the rest wherewith you may cause the weary to rest. As in, the actual word, diving into the word. And it's not just reading the word, because you can read the word all day long and still be angry, malicious. It's about the word transforming our lives into who he wants us to be. So he's literally saying that his word is the rest. This is the rest wherewith you may cause the weary to rest. And this is the refreshing, yet they would not hear. And what was the refreshing is the word. Like, this is the fountain of life. Messiah is the fountain of life. These are his words. And literally, I can see this scripture come alive in my life and many others, that when we come back to the word, this is the refreshing. So anyways, let's get into it. We're going to get to Exodus 13. Before we do that, let's get some shofars ready. I'm going to have to do road shofar today. Praise, yeah. So get your shofars ready. We're going to blow and then get into Exodus 13, 17. All right, Exodus 13, 17, we're going to just have the audio portion, the word audio, read it, and then we'll talk about chapter 13. It's just a few verses, so here we go. When Pharaoh had let the people go, the Elohim led them not through the way of the land of the Palestine, though that was near. For Elohim said,
"Lest perchance the people repent when they see war, and they return to Mitzrayim."
But Elohim led the people about through the way of the wilderness of the Red Sea, and the children of Yasharel went up harnessed out of the land of Mitzrayim. And Moshe took the bones of Yosef with him, for he had straitly sworn the children of Yasharel, saying,
"Elohim will surely visit you, and you will carry up my bones away hence with you."
They took their journey from Sukkot and encamped in Etham, in the edge of the wilderness. And Yahweh went before them by day in a pillar of cloud, to lead them in the way, and by night in a pillar of fire, to give them light, to go by day and night. He took not away the pillar of the cloud by day, nor the pillar of fire by night, from before the people. Okay, really short. Let's just talk about that real quickly. Firstly, for 17 through 18, we talked about this either last week or the week before, about this right here. So you're basically saying, hey, I could have taken you the short route, but I don't want to take them the short route, because when they see war or the after effects of war, they'll be scared and return to Mitzrayim. And what we uncovered is that this is from the story written in the book of Jasher, where 30,000 Ephraimites, this is Jasher 75, 30,000 Ephraimites are like, hey, you know what? It wasn't time for them to leave Egypt. They're like, you know what? The time is now. We're going to take matters into our own hands. We're going to get geared up for war, and we're going to go out and we're just going to take care of business. And almost every one of the 30,000 died. I think a few of them, I think the story here says a few of them. We're not going to read it because we read it just a few weeks ago, but for a reminder for those or anyone that didn't catch that, you can refresh your memory or familiarize yourself with Jasher 75, where these Ephraimites are trying to leave Egypt early on their own power, their own accord, and they get destroyed. And I find that as an interesting spiritual lesson for us today, and physical. People are leaving America, trying to flee the destruction coming, and or thinking that come out of her, my people, lest you be destroyed of her plagues, is a physical. We need to leave this city now before it gets destroyed. I think we see some parallels here, because you see some similar things. They're like, we need to leave Egypt now, even though Yah hadn't brought them, or Moses hadn't been raised up to bring them out yet. They took matters into their own hands instead of waiting on Yah's deliverance, and they all got destroyed. And so I find some similar things happening in the body today, but it's something to consider. Something to consider, that we are waiting for Him to come rescue us, and I don't believe that we need to move here or move there to avoid this destruction. I believe that this is going to be a supernatural rescue that the Most High brings us out of in a very similar way, as we're going to read the story today, where they supernaturally, of course, come out of Egypt by the hand of Yah. I believe in the last days for us, it's going to be in a much bigger and much greater way. And so I also just want to share with you. So in the final part of this story is the 30,000 who died. It says that I'll just read that part here. It says right here, "For this evil was from Yahweh against the children of Ephraim, for they transgressed the word of Yahweh in going forth from Egypt before the period had arrived, which Yahweh in the days of old had appointed to Israel." So we, in a similar way, I don't think we should be leaving anywhere. And of course, the Most High can tell you to move here, move there. I'm just saying that, like, I don't believe that we need to take these matters into our own hands as far as leaving Egypt or leaving Babylon. I believe He's going to come take us. Here it says right here, "And the valley and the slain of the children of Ephraim remained forsaken in the valley of Gath for many days and years, and were not brought to burial, and the valley was filled with men's bones," which we'll talk about here in a second is a disgrace. Being buried scripturally, per the Torah, per every evidence we see scripturally, being buried is the honorable way of what happens to you after you die. Anything else is less than honorable from what we can see. And so the point is, these 30,000 bodies were scattered all throughout the ground there. And what Yah was saying here is, hey, we're not going to go through the way of the land of the Philistines, right? Because this is the valley of Gath, is in the valley of the Philistines. Although that was near, for Elohim said, "Lest perchance the people repent when they see war," or aka 30,000 bodies just laid around. Can you imagine? Put yourself in their shoes. I mean, obviously, Yah was smart in this decision. Any of you that have family, small children, what would they do if they saw 30,000 skeletons and maybe even still parts of rotting flesh or being picked by the bird? I mean, that would be a horrible sight. So Yah's like, we're going to go a different way, the longer way. And also show you in Exodus 13 in the Aramaic, to show you the story is just slightly different, but you can see it's the same story with small details that are changed here. Exodus 13:17, it says, "And it was when Pharaoh had released the people that Yahweh did not conduct them by the way of the land of the Philistines, though that was the near one. For Yahweh said, unless the people be affrighted and seeing their brethren who were killed in war, 200,000 men of strength of the tribe of Ephraim." So here's the detailed change. In Jasher, you had 30,000. In here in the Aramaic, you have 200,000. Which one's right? I don't know. But nevertheless, the point still remains that who took shields and lances and weapons of war and went down to Gath to carry off the flocks of the Philistines, and because they transgressed against the statute of the word of Yahweh, our Messiah, and went forth from Mitzrayim 3 years before the appointed end of their servitude, they were delivered into the hands of the Philistines, who slew them. And yeah, so anyways, so just wanted to show another witness there that story is not just some Pharisee concocted story. There's two witnesses to establish that matter. So let's go here also to verse 19, and it says, "And Moshe took the bones of Yosef with him, for he had straitly sworn to the children of Yasharel, saying, Elohim will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones away hence with you." So once again, this is Joseph being like, hey, don't even leave my bones here in Egypt. When you guys, because you are leaving, when you do leave, please take my bones up with you. And so burial was important. We see it all throughout Scripture. Everything we learn in Torah, we can glean and say, that's how the Father wants things done. We see it with Abraham, with Isaac, with Jacob. We see it with Joseph. We see the importance of being buried. And conversely, you see in an opposite way, being burned is something that is not good. 2 Kings 23:13-16. This is some of the deeds of Josiah, who is one of my favorite kings. It's one of the reasons we just named our brand new son, who's 6 weeks old now, 7 weeks old. We named him Josiah after this king. 2 Kings 23:13-16. So Josiah was anointed by Yah and was cleaning up house. He was getting rid of all the wicked stuff here. And it says, "And the high places that were before Jerusalem, which were on the right hand of the mount of corruption, which Solomon, the king of Israel, had builded for Ashtaroth, the abomination of the Zidonians, and for Chemosh, the abomination of the Moabites, and for Malcham, the abomination of the children of Ammon, did the king defile. And he brake in pieces the images, and cut down the groves, and filled their places with the bones of men." Listen to this. "Moreover, the altar that was at Bethel, and the high place which Jeroboam the son of Nebat who made Israel to sin, had made both that altar and the high place, he broke down and burned the high place and stamped it to small to powder and burned the grove. And as Josiah turned himself, he spied the sepulchres that were there in the mount, and sent and took the bones out of the sepulchres and burned them upon the altar and polluted it according to the word of Yahweh, which the man of Elohim proclaimed, who proclaimed these words. We also see something, I'm not going to read it, in Jeremiah. I don't know the address right now, but in Jeremiah it talked about how they would take out the bones of the kings who worshiped the stars of heaven or worshiped the sun and the moon, and it said that they were going to turn basically burn all those bones as well. So the reason I'm saying this is because I think burial is important now. I know burial is expensive, and I think they've made burial expensive on purpose so that most people just get cremated. And for us who are the called out assembly, set apart, I think it's important that we look at burial. Just something that I felt led to share here. Now I know everyone's situation is different, and I'm not saying that it's a sin if you get cremated or those kind of things, or like your father or mother who was buried or was cremated, recently, and you didn't know. I'm not saying that it's sin. I'm just saying that these are just some of the things that we should look at long term. Like, hey, you know what? We as people of Yah, we should be buried. It seems to be very disgraceful for your carcass or your body to be burned afterwards. You see it with pagans. It's a good thing, but obviously we know that they do not have the best examples. Let's go to just the end here of 13. It's verses 21 through 22. It says, "And Yahweh went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead them by the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, to go by day and night. And he took not the pillar of the cloud by day, nor the pillar of fire by night from before the people." That would be a very comforting thing. I spent some time in the military and plenty of marches where we had hundreds of, if not thousands of people marching. And so nothing close to millions here. This would be just massive. And I could tell you, when you had like a respected captain or respected officer and you saw them at the front, and it was just like, yeah, I'm going to follow you. You're strong. You're a warrior. I trust you. And how much more like if they saw their Elohim at the front, just leading like with a pillar of cloud, and then at night the pillar of fire, just how comforting that would have been. Just some of these things you just read right past, but you really put yourself in the moment and how amazing that would have been. And this is something that's actually coming in the future as well. We're going to go through some scriptures regarding that. Zechariah 2:4-5. "If we are found worthy to escape all these things that are coming to pass and to stand before the Son of Man." I think some people will have seen this. It says, "And he said unto him, Run, speak to this young man, saying, Jerusalem," I believe this is talking about New Jerusalem, just my opinion, "shall be inhabited as towns without walls for the multitude of men and cattle therein. For I, says Yahweh, will be unto her a wall of fire round about, and will be the glory in the midst of her." And this is, we haven't read this yet, but in next chapter 14, we'll see that he was literally a wall of storm and tempest and fire separating the Egyptians and his people. And for those who are worthy to enter and are blessed to enter the gates, he once again will be a wall of fire to his people. Isaiah 4, we'll start at verse 2. "In that day shall the branch of Yahweh be beautiful and glorious. The fruit of the earth shall be excellent and comely for them that are escaped of Israel." Again, once again, blessed, I pray you always that you may be able to escape these things that are coming to pass and to stand before the Son of Man. I'll tell you, brothers and sisters, I know a lot of people preach this message of you're going to have to get your head cut off and whatever. I'll tell you, there's a lot of scriptures that that show an escape for the righteous. And that seems to be what the Bible teaches us. Noah escaped, Abraham escaped the flames, Isaac escaped the sword, Jacob escaped Esau, right? Lot escaped destruction. And of course, Elijah escaped impending death and was taken up into heaven. Like, for the righteous, for those who trust in Yah, they will be delivered. "And it shall come to pass that he that is left in Zion and he that remains in Jerusalem shall be called holy, even every one that is written among the living in Jerusalem. when Yahweh shall have washed away the filth of the daughters of Zion, and shall have purged the blood of Jerusalem from the midst thereof by the spirit of judgment and by the spirit of burning, which is one of the reasons why this is all end time stuff right here. This is why, once again, I believe that Jerusalem will be destroyed one more time, final time. And Yahweh will create, I'm talking about physical, and Yahweh will create upon every dwelling place of Mount Zion, and upon her assemblies a cloud and a smoke by day, and the shining of a flaming of fire by night. For upon all the glory shall be a defense, and there shall be a tabernacle. I think this is New Jerusalem, for a shadow in the daytime from the heat, and a place of refuge, and for a covert from the storm and from the rain. Jeremiah 23:29 says, "Is not my word as like a fire, says Yahweh, and like a hammer that breaks the rock in pieces?" And I'm reading this because it's a reference to, I believe, Messiah, the word. He is like this fire. I believe he was. I'm going to make a case real quickly that he was the pillar of fire and that he was the cloud by day. Psalm 119:105, "Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light into my path." This is literally the picture we're seeing here playing out in the physical, that he is literally a light to their path, a lamp into their feet and a light into their path as they're leaving Egypt. Jude 1:5, "I will therefore put you in remembrance, though you once knew this, how that the Lord, having saved the people out of the land of Egypt, afterward destroyed them that believed not." And the reason, some of you already know this, but when you look at Jude 1:5, the older manuscripts said this: "To remind you now, I want, having known you at one time, all this, that," right here, "Aisus took the people out of the land of Egypt, having saved them, and then afterward he destroyed those that did not believe." And so Jude, Messiah's own brother, recognized that it was Messiah who was the one that literally was there with them and took them out of Egypt. And also, how do we know this? We know that in 1 Corinthians 10:1-4, we know that Paul also pinpointed that Messiah was literally with him, not in spirit, like, "Oh, I'm up here in my lofty abode and I see you down there." He was down there with them. "Moreover, brethren, I would not that ye should be ignorant how that all of our fathers were under the cloud and passed through the sea, and were baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea, and did all eat the same spiritual meat, and did drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Messiah." And when you look at this word "follow," it actually looks, it's like accompanied them. So was together with them. That spiritual rock that was together with him, and that rock was Messiah. So yeah, praise be to Yah. He gave them, for anyone that hasn't spent time in the desert, it can get really, really hot during the day and get really cold at night. And so Messiah was that covering for them in both instances. I'll tell you, in the desert, if you have some cloud cover, I mean, what is it? I'm just guessing, a 20-degree difference, 15-degree difference, easily. At least as far as feel, if that sun just beating you down and then just cloud cover, like, whoa, come on. And so he was that cloud by day, and the fire by night. And same thing, at night gets cold, he's that warmth, he's that light. And and that's obviously, it's a very it's a significant thing for us to consider, that in a spiritual way, he doesn't leave us, he doesn't forsake us, right? And he's with us in those hard times. He's with us in those good times. And how many of you have felt the presence if you're just singing to him with all your heart, and you can just, he's with you, right? And even in the hard times, when you're just down and you're crying out to him, and he's there. He's still there. So yeah, he went before them. And again, just bringing up my time in the military, a good leader, leads from the front by example. And we see this, just that. He went out before them. Let's see. Let's take a look at the Targums, the Aramaic 13:21. It says, here it says, "And the word of Yahweh conducted the people by the way of the desert." And this is again, some of you have seen me take a little bit of separation from the Aramaic, just because I know there's some rabbinic insertions in here, so we got to be very careful. But if we can just be reasonable for a second, I think we can conclude that the Jews would not add Messiah into their text. And so in this text, you see the Father and you see the Son being the word of Yahweh. And you see this word of Yahweh is not some flying piece of paper or a flying book, but is a living being, an eternal Elohim, living being. So one of his titles is the word of Yahweh. And it's interesting down here, it says, and the glory of the presence of Yahweh went before them by day in the column of the cloud, which when you look at, Messiah is the angel of the presence. Isaiah 63, I think it's verse 9 maybe. We'll start verse 8 here. For he said, surely they are my people, children that will not lie. So he was their Savior. In all their affliction he was afflicted, and the angel of his presence saved them. In his love and his pity he redeemed them, this angel of the presence. And so it's interesting to see here, it says, and the glory of the presence of Yahweh went before them by day. This version here says the word of Yahweh. We're talking about the same eternal being, our Messiah, who was not absent in the Old Testament, but matter of fact was everywhere. And to kind of go a little further, it says, and Yahweh went before them. So, people that say that Messiah is Yahweh the Father, I understand, because in so many cases, I believe Messiah, who was acting on behalf of Yahweh, who is the literal mouthpiece of Yahweh, the literal image of Yahweh, was called here Yahweh. Messiah here went before them, I believe. And so here he's designated as Yahweh. But I believe this was kept a mystery until Messiah came saying, hey, we understand the term Elohim. We believe it's the Father and the Son. He was explaining, hey, here's this Father here. He's the one that gave me this doctrine, right? He's the one that's greater than I. And he also went on to say that no one's ever seen him at any time. No one's ever heard from him at any time. Only the Son who's in his bosom, he has declared him. And so anyway, he led the people, he conducted them. Revelation 19. We also know that if Messiah is the commander of the army, who conducted this army? Who conducted this great army? Revelation 19:11 through 14, and I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he does judge and make war. His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns, and he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of Elohim. It's our Messiah, and the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. So he is the commander of Yah's army. John 1:1 says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. The way I understand this, I could be wrong, is that the Messiah, the Word, was with the Father from the very beginning, and Messiah himself is Elohim, as in he's the Son of Elohim. He's an eternal being. Psalm 119:105, your word, Messiah, is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. What we're seeing play out in the physical here in Exodus, but of course in the spiritual, we can glean even much more. And you can see here, Messiah was with them day and night, and nothing changed, even all the way to the end of his words here in Matthew 28, where he says what? He says, go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Ruach HaKodesh, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you part of the time, only on Sundays for 45 minutes. No, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. Amen. Hallelujah. Let it be so. I pray he's with us now. He says, where two or three are gathered, there I am in the midst of them. Or he says, in my name, there I am in the midst of them. So, hallelujah. We are gathering into the honor of the Father and to honor his Son, Messiah Yahusha. So let's go now to Exodus 14. We'll have the word audio read it, and then we'll talk about it together. So praise Yah. Here's chapter 14. Shemot, Exodus, chapter 14. And Yahweh spoke unto Moshe, saying,
Speak unto the children of Yasharel, that they turn and encamp before Pi Hachiron, between Migdol and the sea, over against Baal Zephon. Before it shall ye encamp by the sea. For Pharaoh will say of the children of Yasharel, they are entangled in the land, the wilderness has shut them in. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, that he shall follow after them, and I will be honored upon Pharaoh, and upon all his host, that the Mitzrayim may know that I am Yahuwah.
And they did so. And it was told the king of Mitzrayim that the people fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and his servants was turned against the people. And they said,
Why have we done this, that we have let Yasharel go from serving us?
And he made ready his chariot, and took his people with him. And he took 600 chosen chariots, and all the chariots of Mitzrayim, and captains over every one of them. And Yahweh hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Mitzrayim, and he pursued after the children of Yasharel. And the children of Yasharel went out with a high hand. But the Mitzrayim pursued after them, all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh, and his horsemen, and his army, and overtook them encamping by the sea, beside Pi Hachiroth, before Baal Tzafon. And when Pharaoh drew nigh, the children of Yasharel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Mitzrayim marched after them, and they were sore afraid. And the children of Yasharel cried out unto Yahweh. And they said unto Moshe,
Because there were no graves in Mitzrayim, have ye taken us away to die in the wilderness? Wherefore have you dealt thus with us, to carry us forth out of Mitzrayim? Is not this the word that we did tell you in Mitzrayim, saying, Let us alone, that we may serve the Mitzrayim? For it had been better for us to serve the Mitzrayim, than that we should die in the wilderness.
And Moshe said unto the people, Fear ye not, stand still, and see the Yeshua of Yahweh, which he will show you today. For the Mitzrayim who ye have seen today, ye shall see them again no more forever. Yahweh shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. And Yahweh said unto Moshe,
Wherefore cry you unto me? Speak unto the children of Yasharel, that they go forward. But lift up your rod, and stretch out your hand over the sea, and divide it. And the children of Yasharel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. And I, behold, I will harden the hearts of the Mitzrayim, and they shall follow them, and I will get me honor upon Pharaoh, and upon all his host, upon his chariots, and upon his horsemen. And the Mitzrayim shall know that I am Yahuwah, when I have gotten me honor upon Pharaoh, upon his chariots, and upon his horsemen.
And the angel of Elohim, which went before the camp of Yasharel, removed and went behind them. And the pillar of the cloud went from before their face and stood behind them. And it came between the camp of the Mitzrayim and the camp of Yasharel. And it was a cloud and darkness to them, but it gave light by night to these, so that the one came not near the other all night. And Moshe stretched out his hand over the sea, and Yahweh caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the children of Yasharel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. And the Mitzrayim pursued, and went in after them into the midst of the sea, even all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. And it came to pass that in the morning watch Yahweh looked unto the host of the Mitzrayim through the pillar of fire and of the cloud, and troubled the host of the Mitzrayim, and took off their chariot wheels, that they drove them heavily, so that the Mitzrayim said, Let us flee from the face of Yasharel, for Yahweh fights for them against the Mitzrayim. And Yahweh said unto Moshe,
Stretch out your hand over the sea, that the waters may come again upon the Mitzrayim, upon their chariots, and upon their horsemen.
And Moshe stretched forth his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to his strength when the morning appeared, and the Mitzrayim fled against it. And Yahweh overthrew the Mitzrayim in the midst of the sea. And the waters returned, and covered the chariots, and the horsemen, and all the host of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. There remained not so much as one of them. But the children of Yasharel walked upon dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. Thus Yahweh saved Yasharel that day out of the hand of the Mitzrayim. And Yasharel saw the Mitzrayim dead upon the seashore. And Yasharel saw that great work which Yahweh did upon the Mitzrayim. And the people feared Yahweh, and believed Yahweh, and his servant Moshe. Whew, I tell you what, that is just, that story. I mean, if again, once again, when you can just read right through it, like, oh yeah, cool. But I mean, if I don't know if everyone can do this, but can you put yourself in their shoes and just imagine what this is like? First of all, imagine, leaving Egypt and in haste, and you're like excited because you're like, whoa, we're totally free. What do we do now? I don't know, but we're just gonna follow this pillar of fire, and and we're gonna camp here and rest, and then boom, you see all Egypt and the chariots, and you're like, what do we do now? We're trapped. We got nowhere to go. And what I love about this, one of my favorite passages, when he says, you shall hold your peace. Here we go. So the people are like freaking out, they're like, oh, isn't this what we told you in Egypt, saying, leave us alone that we may serve the Mitzrayim, blah, 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 blah. And they're freaking out. I mean, I'll tell you, some of the things that people have freaked out on me over, I mean, that's just like so small compared to this. And so it's like, I love this. Basically, Moses is like, zip it. All right, relax. Yahweh's going to take care of you. Yahweh shall fight for you, and you shall be quiet. Relax. And this passage here has echoed in my mind over the years, in the different trials I've had, different people coming at me with false accusations, allegations. It's like everyone's like, yeah, make a video and respond to all their claims and silence all the people talking about you. And I just say, you know what? Yahweh shall fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. Hallelujah. I think that's a better way to go. Let's take a look at this. So he's telling them to camp before Pi Hiroth, between Migdol and the sea, against Baal Zephon. And it's just, it's clarified in the Aramaic that Baal Zephon is the idol. I think where is it? Right here. Yeah, before the idol Zephon that is left of all the idols of Mitzrayim. For the Mitzrayim will say, more excellent is Baal Zephon than all the idols, because it is left and not smitten, and therefore they will come to worship it and find that you are encamped near it on the border of the sea. So and it's interesting when you look at this. Wikipedia is not the best research site, but it is just taking a look at it. It says, according to a legend quoted by so-and-so, he was captured by the military forces of Joseph and imprisoned, later serving as a general for Kittim. According to this account, he became a Latin king in Latium, which was the area where Rome was to be founded later along the Tiber River. King Zepho, son of Eliphaz, was called Janus Saturnus by his subject, which is the reason I'm reading this is some sort of legend that I don't know anything about this Josephon. I guess, it's part of Josephus's writings. But anyways, it corroborates the same story about Zepho, not Zephon, but Zepho, who, if you remember, he was the big monster slayer. Basically, for anyone that watches Star Wars, I'm not a fan of Star Wars anymore. That's my old life. But they literally took the story of Zepho and they redid it with Luke Skywalker when he went in and saw the abominable whatever and was eating a cow and he killed it, or eating that tauntaun or whatever and killed it. It's literally the same story you read in Jasher. They took it from Jasher and rebranded it. And in this legend here, so what I'm saying is I think Zephon is an idol that they made after Zepho, because they actually ended up worshiping him because he was able to kill this monster that was eating everyone's cows, and they ended up worshiping him. And it seemed as though, this also confirms the speculations and research that Edomites actually were the, even though it wasn't their land assignment, they ended up taking over that area and were actually the founders of Rome. So Esau is Rome. Rome is Esau. So, at least from my understanding. So I could be wrong, of course. But not that that's super important to our walk, who Baal Zephon is. But I don't know. I'm the type that I like when I see things pop out, I want to talk about it, share about it. It may be completely insignificant to our lives, but I like to do deep dives in these studies. So let's go to 14:14, and we talked about this just for a second. Yahweh shall fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. Let's take a look at the Jasher version of this story, which just adds a few more details. And so this is Jasher 81:5. We're going to read through 35. And the children of Israel traveled from Egypt and from Goshen and from Ramses and encamped in Sukkot on the 15th day of the first month. The reason I like this is because it actually gives us the dates of everything that's happening for anyone that, that may pertain to their studies. The Egyptians buried all their firstborn whom Yahweh had smitten, and all the Egyptians buried their slain for 3 days. And the children of Israel traveled from Sukkot and encamped in Etham at the end of the wilderness. And on the third day after the Egyptians had buried their firstborn, many men rose up from Egypt and went after Israel to make them return to Egypt, for they repented that they had sent the Israelites away from their servitude. And one man said to his neighbor, surely Moses and Aaron spoke to Pharaoh, saying, we will go a 3 days' journey in the wilderness and sacrifice to Yahweh Elohim. Now, therefore, let us rise up early in the morning and cause them to return. And it shall be that if they return with us to Egypt to their masters, then we shall know that there is faith in them. That's kind of interesting. But if they will not return, then we will fight with them and make them come back with great power and a strong hand. And all the nobles of Pharaoh rose up in the morning, and with them about 700,000 men. And they went forth from Egypt on that day, and came to the place where the children of Israel were. And all the Egyptians saw, and behold, Moses and Aaron and all the children of Israel were sitting before Pi-hahiroth, eating and drinking and celebrating the feast of Yahweh, because it was still, even though many days had passed, it's still during the week of unleavened bread. And all the Egyptians said to the children of Israel, surely you said, we will go a journey for 3 days in the wilderness and sacrifice to our Elohim and return. Now therefore, this day makes 5 days since you went. Why do you not return to your masters? And Moses and Aaron answered them, saying, because Yahweh our Elohim has testified in us, saying, you shall no more return to Egypt, but we will betake ourselves to a land flowing with milk and honey, as Yahweh our Elohim has sworn to our ancestors to give to us. And when the nobles of Egypt saw that the children of Israel did not hearken to them to return to Egypt, they girded themselves to fight with Israel. And Yahweh strengthened the hearts of the children of Israel over the Egyptians, that they gave them a severe beating, and the battle was sore upon the Egyptians, and all the Egyptians fled from before the children of Israel, for many of them perished by the hand of Israel. And the nobles of Pharaoh went to Egypt and told Pharaoh, saying, the children of Israel have fled, and will no more return to Egypt. And in this manner did Moses and Aaron speak to us. And Pharaoh heard this thing in his heart, and the hearts of all his subjects were turned against Israel, and they repented that they had sent Israel. And all the Egyptians advised Pharaoh to pursue the children of Israel, to make them come back to their burdens. And they said each man to his brother, what is this which we have done, that we have sent Israel from our servitude? And Yahweh strengthened the hearts of all the Egyptians to pursue the Israelites, for Yahweh desired to overthrow the Egyptians in the Red Sea. And Pharaoh rose up and harnessed his chariot, and he ordered all the Egyptians to assemble. Not one man was left, excepting the little ones and the women. And all the Egyptians went forth with Pharaoh to pursue the children of Israel, and the camp of Egypt was exceedingly large and heavy camped, about 100,000 men. Is that a million? 100,000, 100,000, yeah, a million. And the whole of this camp went and pursued the children of Israel to bring them back to Egypt, and they reached them encamping by the Red Sea. And the children of Israel lifted up their eyes and beheld all the Egyptians pursuing them. And the children of Israel were greatly terrified at them. And the children of Israel cried to Yahweh, especially with the chariots coming. Most of you have seen how the chariots, how they had those like blades on the side. They would just mow through people. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. I was sitting there, I'd be like, well, hopefully I'd stop and pray, but I mean, I would be like, my children, these things coming, like, what do we do? Moses, what do we do? Like, I don't think I would be like, what are you doing? You took us out here to kill us. I'd be like, Moses, what do we do now? Let's pray. Now, on account of the Egyptians, the children of Israel divided themselves into 4 divisions, and they were divided in their opinions, for they were afraid of the Egyptians, and Moses spoke to each one of them. The first division was of the children of Reuben, Simeon, and Issachar, and they resolved to cast themselves into the sea, for they were exceedingly afraid of the Egyptians. And Moses said to them, fear not, stand still, and see the salvation of Yahweh, which he will effect this day for you. The second division was of the children of Zebulun, Benjamin, Naphtali, and they resolved to go back to Egypt with the Egyptians. And Moses said to them, fear not, for as you have seen the Egyptians this day, so shall you see them no more forever. The third division was of the children of Judah and Joseph, and they resolved to go to meet the Egyptians to fight with them. And Moses said to them, stand in your places, for Yahweh will fight for you, and ye shall remain silent. And the fourth division was of the children of Levi, Gad and Asher, and they resolved to go into the midst of the Egyptians to confound them. And Moses said to them, remain in your stations, and fear not, only call unto Yahweh, that he may save you out of their hands. After this Moses rose up from amidst the people, and he prayed to Yahweh and said, O Yahweh Elohim of the whole earth, save now thy people, whom you did bring forth from Egypt, and let not the Egyptians boast that power and might are theirs. Actually, we're going to keep reading because, I'll stop there, and we'll come back in just a second. So where we stopped there, so here we are. Let's go back to Exodus 14, verses 19 through 20. It says, and the angel of Elohim, which went before the camp of Yasharel. So remember earlier, all these things, Yahweh shall fight for you. Yahweh said unto Moses, but who is the being here? It's the angel of Elohim, which went before the camp of Yasharel, removed and went behind them, and the pillar of cloud went from before their face and stood behind them. And so we talked plenty about the angel of Elohim over the last few weeks, so we won't retread that. For anyone that's just catching this video and didn't catch the previous episodes, you just go to YouTube. You can type in identity, the angel of YHWH. That's the tetragrammaton. Or you can just type in identity, the angel of the Lord, maybe even parable of the vineyard, because our site is shadow banned. It's hard to search and find our videos sometimes. So anyways, and it came between the camp of Mitzrayim and the camp of Yasharel. It was a cloud and darkness to them, but it gave light by night to these, so that one came not near the other all night. And Moshe stretched out his hand. Okay, we'll stop there. It's interesting that the enemy, that light was shown, but the enemy couldn't see the light. It was darkness, right? It was darkness to them and light to Israel, very much like we saw last week, where in Goshen they had light, but all of Egypt was completely dark. Proverbs 6:23, for the commandment is a lamp and the law is light. The Torah of the Most High is light. We read this earlier, but again, Psalm 119:105, your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. John 1:1-5, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. The same was in the beginning with Elohim. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything that was made that was made. So literally Messiah is part of the foundation of this earth, him and the Father. In him was life, and life was in the light of men, and the light shines in darkness, and the darkness comprehends it not. And so we see that here playing out in the physical. He literally has this light, but not for them. John 1:14, and the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. I will skip that one. Let's take a look at Isaiah 58:6-8. Is not this the fast that I have chosen, to loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, that you break every yoke, as in do good? Is it not to deal your bread to the hungry, and that you bring the poor that are cast out into your house, taking care of people? When you see the naked, that you cover him, and that you hide not yourself from your own flesh. It's interesting, you see many of these things in Matthew 25 between the sheep and the goats. You did all these things to me, you didn't do all these things to me. So when you do these good things, then shall your light break forth as the morning, and your health shall spring forth speedily, and your righteousness shall go before you, and the glory of Yahweh shall be your reward. Deuteronomy 28:29, this is part of the curses for breaking the law. And it says, and you shall grope at noonday as the blind gropes in the darkness. You know, someone who's blind, or like, if you've ever been like in a power outage and this total complete darkness, or you've been in a place where you just literally have to like put your hands in front of you and you're like, I can't see. Let me feel for the wall, feel for the door. Oh, there it is. You know, he's saying spiritually, this is how people who don't adhere to the law, that you shall grope at noonday as the blind gropes in the darkness, and you shall not prosper in your ways, and you shall only be oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save you. So where are we at? 14:31. Okay, so this is just the end. Let's now just finish up the Jasher portion. We're going to read 81:36-44. There is a really different story, different outcome here of Pharaoh. And I want to share with you why this I believe this could be a true story here. At first, you know, if none of you have read this yet, at first you'd be like, what? Read this. Let's take a look. So Yahweh said to Moses, why do you cry unto me? Speak to the children of Israel that they should proceed, and do you stretch out your rod upon the sea and divide it, and the children of Israel shall pass through it. And Moses did so, and he lifted up his rod upon the sea and divided it. And the waters of the sea were divided into 12 parts, and the children of Israel passed through on foot with shoes as a man would pass through a prepared road. And Yahweh manifested to the children of Israel his wonders in Egypt and in the sea by the hand of Moses and Aaron. And when the children of Israel had entered the sea, the Egyptians came after them, and the waters of the sea resumed upon them, and they all sank in the water, and not one man was left excepting Pharaoh, who gave thanks to Yahweh and believed in him. Therefore Yahweh did not cause him to perish at that time of the Egyptians. And Yahweh ordered an angel to take him from amongst the Egyptians, who cast him upon the land of Nineveh, and he reigned over it for a long time. And so I want to pause there really quickly, because that may be like, you're like, what? Why would he save Pharaoh? But let's not forget, I don't have the reference here. I know it's in Exodus 9. Exodus 9. And we'll search for raised thee up. Here we go. Exodus 9:16, and it's talking about Pharaoh, and in very deed for this cause have I raised you up. He's raised up Pharaoh for to show in you my power, and that my name may be declared throughout all the earth. What a testimony. If this story is true, that he spared Pharaoh, he killed literally everyone else, but spared Pharaoh, and it says that he gave thanks to Yahweh and believed in him, right? And then he was cast upon the land of Nineveh. Who does that sound like? It sounds like Jonah. Well, there's other stories and legends that say that this Pharaoh lived supernaturally for up to 500 years and was the king of Nineveh when Jonah came there. It's very possible. Now, others have speculated that it was the eclipse that happened before Jonah arrived that got everybody like trembling. And then Jonah came and said, hey, repent or Nineveh will be destroyed in 40 days. And everyone's like, okay. Is it possible that even if it wasn't this Pharaoh, even if this Pharaoh didn't live that many years for the time of Jonah, what if Pharaoh went to the land of Nineveh, reigned over it for a long time, and told them about Yah, and they knew about him, so that when Jonah came and declared, and in the name of Yahuwah, that immediately everyone, including the king, repented? It's possible. Very possible. Yeah, and so this is not also, this story about Pharaoh surviving is not far-fetched from what the scriptures teach us. Often when an entire nations were destroyed, there was still a few survivors left. Shechem, even though all of Shechem was destroyed, there was a few survivors left. Even though the Amalekites were destroyed, there's still a few survivors left. Even though the Edomites were destroyed, there's still a few survivors left. And so that would be kind of Yah's character, not kind of, it would be Yah's character to preserve one person, whether it's Pharaoh or somebody, to just show everything that happened, and from the perspective of the Egyptians that everything happened to. So anyways, I don't want to spend too much more time on this. Let's keep moving. And on that day, Yahweh saved Israel from the hand of Egypt, and all the children of Israel saw that the Egyptians had perished, and they beheld the great hand of Yahweh and what he had performed in Egypt and in the sea. Then sang Moses and the children of Israel this song unto Yahweh on the day when Yahweh caused the Egyptians to fall before them. And all Israel sang in concert, saying, I will sing to Yahweh, for he is greatly exalted. The horse and his rider has he cast into the sea. Behold, it is written in the book of the law of Elohim, which, of course, we're getting ready to read that in a second. I've got a couple notes here for Exodus 14. I did want to see, let's see here. Let's see here. It's just interesting here. In the Aramaic, it does confirm what Jasher said. This is 4 parties were made among the sons of Yasharel on the shore of the weedy sea. One said, let us go down the sea. Another said, let us return to Mitzrayim. Another said, let us set against them in the line of battle. Another said, let us raise a cry amongst them and confound them. And so it corroborates that story as a second witness. I think it also talked about the 12 gates. Oh yeah, here we go. And Moshe stretched out his hand over the sea with a great and glorious rod, which was created at the beginning, and on which were engraved and set forth the great and glorious name, and the 10 signs which had smitten the Mitzrayim, and the 3 fathers of the world, and the 6 mothers, and the 12 tribes of Jacob. Yeah. And Yahweh brought a vehement east wind upon the sea all night and made the sea dry and divided the waters into 12 divisions according to the 12 tribes of Israel, or 12 tribes of Jacob. Let's see. So we also got verse 24. And it says right here, and it was the time of the morning that the word of Yahweh looked upon the host of Mitzrayim. Let's go to verse 31. And Yashral saw the power of the mighty hand which Yahweh had wrought the miracles in Mitzrayim, and the people feared before Yahweh and believed in the name of the word of Yahweh and the prophecies of Moshe his servant. Okay, so actually, I have I'm going to play a little part of the documentary for you, but I think we're going to play that maybe towards the end. Yeah, we'll play that maybe at the end of 15. So let's go to 15. Let's go to the Song of Moses. Now, real quickly, a lot of you have been emailing me and commenting and messaging me, Adam, where is the Song of Moses? The beloved Song of Moses that I love and a lot of us love. I'm going to keep my words short and few here. I don't want to make anyone else look bad, but I'll just speak this from a very general perspective. There's people who own the rights to that song from Alan Horvath. Alan Horvath departed in 2019, 2020, who was also an instructor in righteousness, sang amazing songs. This is I think the last song he sang. He sang it, and it was shortly after he died. It was put in my hands, saying, "Hey, Adam, I think it would be a blessing to the body if you took Alan's song and turned it into a music video, which is the Song of Moses." He took the Song of Moses and literally made it into a song, and I accepted the invitation to do so, and it was on the channel for many years. However, the company that owns the right to that song changed their mind about me having that on this channel, and copyright, put a copyright lawsuit infringement against me on that, so I had to take it down. So I'm no longer able to have on the channel. So with that being said, we won't be able to sing the song that we have sang for years. I think it's a tragedy, but it is what it is. I've learned that we are to take everything that comes our way patiently, and so we'll do that. So I'm sorry we won't be able to sing it together, but I believe this song in general is a song of history and prophecy. We'll talk about at the end of it. It's the same story at the end here. Yahushua grabs his people from slavery. The enemy chases after and is annihilated, first by water in this flood, of course, in the Red Sea, but of course in the end times by fire. And we'll read that here in a bit. So let's go with Exodus 15, the Song of Moshe. Here we go. Shemot, Exodus, chapter 15. Then sang Moshe and the children of Yashrael this song unto Yahweh, saying, I will sing unto Yahweh, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and the rider has he thrown into the sea. Yah is my strength and song, and he has become my Yeshua. He is my El, and I will prepare him a habitation. My father's Elohai, and I will exalt him. Yahweh is a man of war. Yahweh is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his host has he cast into the sea. His chosen captains also are drowned in the Red Sea. The depths have covered them. They sank into the bottom as a stone. Your right hand, O Yahweh, is become glorious in power. Your right hand, O Yahweh, has dashed in pieces the enemy. And in the greatness of your excellency, you have overthrown them that rose up against you. You sent forth your wrath, which consumed them as stubble. And with the blast of your nostrils, the waters were gathered together. The flood stood upright as a heap, and the depths were congealed in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoil. My lust shall be satisfied upon them. I will draw my sword, my hand shall destroy them. You blew with your ruach, the sea covered them. They sank as lead in the mighty waters. Who is like unto you, O Yahweh, among the Elohim? Who is like you, glorious in holiness, fearful in praises, doing wonders? You stretched out your right hand, the earth swallowed them.
You and your mercy have led forth the people which you have redeemed. You have guided them in your strength unto your holy habitation. The people shall hear and be afraid. Sorrow shall take hold on the inhabitants of Pelesheth. Then the dukes of Edom shall be amazed, the mighty men of Moab, trembling shall take hold upon them. All the inhabitants of Canaan shall melt away. Fear and dread shall fall upon them by the greatness of your arm. They shall be as still as a stone, till your people pass over, O Yahweh, till the people pass over which you have purchased. You shall bring them in and plant them in the mountain of your inheritance, in the place, O Yahweh, which you have made for you to dwell in the sanctuary, O Adonai, which your hands have established. Yahweh shall reign forever and ever.
For the horse of Pharaoh went in with his chariots and with his horsemen into the sea, and Yahweh brought again the waters of the sea upon them. But the children of Yasharel went on dry land in the midst of the sea. And Miriam, the prophetess, the sister of Aharon, took a timbrel in her hand, and all the women went out after her with timbrels and dances. And Miriam answered them,
Sing ye to Yahweh, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider has he thrown into the sea.
So Moshe brought Yasharel from the Red Sea, and they went out into the wilderness of Shur. And they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. And when they came to Marah, they could not drink of the waters of Marah, for they were bitter. Therefore, the name of it was called Marah. And the people murmured against Moshe, saying, What shall we drink? And he cried unto El Yahweh. And Yahweh showed him a tree, which, when he had cast into the waters were made sweet. There he made for them a statute and an ordinance, and there he proved them, and said, If you will diligently hearken to the voice of Yahweh Elohim, and will do that which is right in his sight, and will give ear to his commandments, and guard all his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon you, which I have brought upon the Mitzrayim, for I am Yahweh Ropheka. And they came to Elim, where there were 12 wells of water, and 70 palm trees, and they encamped there by the waters. Man, did any of you ever feel bad for Yah? It's like, can you imagine how he must feel, like, doing all these things, these wonders, these signs, bringing him out, the waters are up, and they're walking through, destroy all of the Egyptians, and man, and a couple days later they get thirsty, and they're just ready to stone Moses, they're murmuring at him, and it's like, man, whew, do his people ever learn? And I ask that because I think of the miracles he's done for us in our lives, the how he's rescued us, how he's delivered us through the blood of his son, and how he's given us new lives, and yet people still murmur, complain. They still want to always throw stones, spiritual stones, at the leaders. It's just not a whole lot changes. But I just wanted to recap what I was mentioning here. This is, I believe, a song of prophecy, which details the account of what happened here, but is so much more prophetic than you can really even imagine. Again, it's the same story here. You see, Yahusha grabs his people from slavery, the enemy chases after, and is annihilated. First by water, of course, with the floods here, and then in a much bigger arena, the beast, the false prophet, the armies that followed them. You see the same thing. So we read this earlier, of course, that Messiah, heaven opens, the white horse, the armies follow him, and of course out of his mouth goes a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations, and he shall rule over them with a rod of iron, and he treads the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of the Almighty Elohim. A few verses later, also in Revelation 19, it says, And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army. And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These were both cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. And the remnant were slain with the sword of him that sat upon the horse, which sword proceeded out of his mouth, and all the fowls were filled with their flesh. So, again, destroyed. It's like you see the same thing with the time of Noah. The first end comes with water. The second end comes with fire. The first rescue, the enemy is destroyed with water, second time by fire. Very similar passages. And here in 2nd Ezra 13, we actually get a few more details about this battle, which is very similar, in my opinion, to Pharaoh and his armies pursuing the righteous. Here's, and just in case you're new, 2nd Ezra was a book that was included in the 1611 King James Bible in the Apocrypha section. And it still sits there today. But of course, most Protestant Bibles, the Apocrypha was taken out. 2nd Ezra 13, 5 through 11 says, "After this I looked, and behold, an innumerable multitude of men were gathered together from the four winds of heaven to make war against the man who came up out of the sea." And which, by the way, this book later on tells us that this is just a parable. This has nothing to do with Revelation 13. This is just a parable from Messiah being hidden until the last days. "And I looked, and behold, he carved out for himself a great mountain and flew upon it," New Jerusalem. "And I tried to see the region or place from which the mountain was carved, but I could not." Why? Because it was made with not with human hands, but with Elohim's hands. "After this I looked, and behold, all who had gathered together against him to wage war with him were much afraid, yet dared to fight. And behold, when he saw the onrush of the approaching multitude, he neither lifted up his hand or held a spear or any weapon of war, but I only saw how he sent forth from his mouth, as it were, a stream of fire, and from his lips a flaming breath, and from his tongue he shot forth a storm of sparks. All these were mingled together, the stream of the fire, and the flaming breath, and the great storm, and fell on the onrushing multitude, which was prepared to fight, and burned them all up, so that suddenly nothing was seen of the innumerable multitude, but only the dust of ashes and the smell of smoke. And when I saw it, I was amazed." Now, I was thinking about this. I've actually been thinking about this over the years. Some of you know that my testimony, I used to be a big gamer. I mean, a big gamer. I was, especially in my middle school years, I was kind of a loner. I was chubby. Kids hated me, poked fun of me, whatever. So a lot of my time I spent indoors and playing video games. We moved around a lot from school to school, and I had a hard time making friends. I was very shy, and like I said, I got picked on a lot. So anyways, I grew up playing a lot of video games. I later grew out of my awkwardness and did, I guess, normal worldly stuff, but I never got rid of the games. The games just followed me, and even into like my military days. I mean, just my off time, I just love just sit there and just play video games. Even when I got out of the Marine Corps and I was in the professional world and successful, I'd still work hard all day, be successful, come home and play video games. The weekends was a different story, but my point is, I played a lot of video games, and so many video games where it's like, you know, these whatever beings come over and they take over Earth. But if everyone just gets together and uses all these special powers, we can defeat these massive creatures that shoot fire out of their mouth and send down lightning. And I just wonder if part of this conditioning, it's not just about entertainment, but they're literally breeding a generation of young men, even young women, thinking that they can take down these big, massive creatures where the odds are just completely out of your favor. But if we all just join together and take down these big, bad enemies, we can do it. And it's interesting when reading this, when looking at Messiah, having a flaming breath, great storm, and at some point it says here that they were, I don't know, maybe I didn't put in the right verses here. Yeah, and so it says how everyone, when they saw him, they were all trembling, and they were all fearful, but they still fought him. A little bit later here, we're going to get interpretation for the vision. This is really interesting here. This is the interpretation of the vision. "As for your seeing a man come up from the heart of the sea, this is he whom the Most High has been keeping for many ages, who will himself deliver his creation, and he will direct those who are left. As for your seeing wind and fire and a storm coming out of his mouth, and as for his not holding a spear or weapon of war, yet destroying the onrushing multitude, which came to conquer him, this is the interpretation. Behold, the days are coming when the Most High will deliver those who are on the earth, and bewilderment of mind shall come over those who dwell on the earth. And they shall plan to make war against one another, city against city, place against place, people against people, and kingdom against kingdom. And when these things come to pass, and the signs occur which I showed you before, then my Son will be revealed, whom you saw as a man coming up from the sea. And when all the nations hear his voice, every man shall leave his own land and the warfare they have against one another. And an innumerable multitude shall be gathered together, as you saw, desiring to come and conquer him. But he will stand on top of Mount Zion, and Zion will come and be made manifest to all people, prepared and built as you saw the mountain carved without hands. And he, my son, will reprove the assembled nations for their ungodliness. This was symbolized by the storm. And he will reproach them to their face with their evil thoughts and the torments with which they are to be tortured, which were symbolized by the flames, and will destroy them without effort by the law, which was symbolized by the fire. So this is basically saying there's going to be worldwide conflict. Everyone's going to be fighting each other. It sounds like World War III. But when Messiah comes with his New Jerusalem, then everyone's going to be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Why are we fighting each other, bros? Let's fight big bad dude who's shooting sparks and flames. Right? Obviously, I'm being a little silly here, but I mean, really, that's kind of what's going on. And yeah. So anyways. Just wanted to share that you're going to see some similar things. The enemy chasing after the righteous, the elect, getting destroyed. Of course, in the end times, through fire. Very similar theme as we see in Exodus. It's like what I'm seeing here, excuse me, let me go back. Let me just finish my thought. What I'm seeing here is when Messiah, what I believe is when Messiah comes, heaven's going to be rolled back like a scroll. He's going to come down. Satan and his angels will be thrown down at the same time, Revelation 12. Let me just go here to back up my claims, or at least just show you what I'm thinking here. It says here, of course, there was war in heaven. Mike and all his angels fought, such and such. But here it says, and the great dragon was cast out. That old serpent was called the devil and Satan, which deceives the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Now it says, and I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, now is come salvation. So when the devil's thrown down, now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our Elohim and the power of his Messiah. So all this is coming right now. Why? For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our Elohim day and night. Literally, heaven comes out into earth, and you're going to have two kingdoms, the kingdom of light and the kingdom of darkness. And I believe that when he comes down, his saints will be gathered together to him. So they're literally going to exodus, second exodus. I think I would lean towards it being supernaturally gathered and taken out into that land. Maybe right outside the gates, and that's where he separates who comes in, who doesn't. I don't know. But it's like you have this escape, and then you have the enemy coming and rushing in to destroy the righteous who escaped, and of course, Yahusha himself. But of course, they are destroyed, and that's what we saw in Revelation 19. Saw the beast, the kings of the earth, their armies gathered together to make war against him. That sat on the horse. And of course, we know that they were thrown into the lake of fire, whereas the Pharaoh and his men were thrown into the big lake of the Red Sea. Exodus 15:3 says, Yahweh is a man of war. We know that in John 4, Messiah said that Elohim, the Father is a spirit. This one here says, Exodus 15:3, Yahweh is a man of war. And this makes me further believe that this Yahweh he's talking about is Yahusha. It's my opinion. I could be wrong. Exodus 15:4, Pharaoh's chariots and his host that he has cast in the sea. His chosen captains are also drowned in the Red Sea. Okay, I'm sorry, my notes here. Just comparing the lake of fire here. We just made that point here. Verse 5, the depths have covered them. They sank into the bottom as a stone, as opposed to the lake of fire, which is, of course, in the bottomless pit. They open up the bottomless pit, and then they're thrown. Let's go to Exodus 15:9. The enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoil. My lust shall be satisfied upon them. I will draw my sword, my hand shall destroy them. And so this is, of course, rooted in pride and hatred. Pride, really, what other fleshly emotion or fleshly behavior is the root of your whole nation just got destroyed? All these wonders, all these signs, what on earth are you doing going to pursue them other than pride and hatred, which is blind? It'll blind people to the outcome that they literally can't even see straight. James 4:1-4, from whence come wars and fightings among you? Come they not here because even of your lusts that war in your members? You lust and have not. You kill and desire to have and cannot obtain. You fight and war, yet you have not because you ask not. You ask and receive not because you ask amiss, that you may consume it upon your lusts. Ye adulterers and adulteresses, know you not that the friendship of the world is enmity with Elohim? Whosoever therefore will be a friend of the world is the enemy of Elohim. And of course, it goes on to say, draw nigh to Elohim, and he will draw nigh to you. Let's go to Exodus 15:13 through 16. In your mercy you have led forth a people which you have redeemed. You have guided them in your strength unto your holy habitation. The people shall hear and be afraid. Sorrow shall take hold on the inhabitants of the Philistines. Then the dukes of Edom shall be amazed. Perhaps this is Rome and the dynasty in England. These people that run the world, if you will. The dukes of Edom shall be amazed. The mighty men of Moab trembling shall take hold upon them. All the inhabitants of Canaan shall melt away, like literally melt. And of course we know Canaan is aka the land of Israel, where again I do believe that Jerusalem one day will be destroyed once more. I want to share what I believe this is talking about prophetic. This is not just, I think in the physical back then, this is talking about the nations around them really like, ooh, I heard about them. This is going to be really bad. This, and I think in the end times, that's going to be true as well. Because can you imagine if people are supernaturally brought to this area, the firmament cracks open, there's no, the sun, the order of the sun and the moon are different. People are going to be melting with fear. But I think there's more to it. Isaiah 33, 1 through 4. I think I was going to put it in the NASB. This KJV is hard to read a little bit sometimes. Woe to you that spoil. Yeah, I'm just not even going to do it. NASB up. Maybe just for Isaiah. Woe to you, destroyer, while you were not destroyed, and he who is treacherous, while others did not deal treacherously with him. As soon as you finish destroying, you will be destroyed. As soon as you cease to deal treacherously, others will deal treacherously with you. Yahweh, be gracious to us. We have waited for you. Be their strength every morning, our salvation also in the time of distress. At the sound of a roar, peoples flee. At the lifting up of yourself, nations disperse. Your plunder is gathered as the caterpillar gathers. Like an infestation of locusts, people storm it. Yahweh is exalted, for he dwells on high. He has filled Zion with justice and righteousness. He will be the stability of your times, a wealth of salvation, wisdom, and knowledge. The fear of Yahweh is his treasure. Behold, their brave men cry out in the streets. The ambassadors of peace weep bitterly. The highways are, and this is interesting because we also know that Paul prophesied that when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them. The ambassadors of peace weep bitterly. The highways are desolate. The traveler has ceased. He has broken the covenant. He has despised the cities. He has no regard for mankind. The land mourns and wastes away. Lebanon is shamed and withers. Sharon is like a desert plain. Bashan and Carmel lose their foliage. These are all places in Canaan that are literally destroyed here. This is all day of Yahweh talk. Now I will arise, says Yahweh. Now I will be exalted. Now will I be lifted up. You have conceived chaff. You will bring forth or give birth stubble. My breath will consume you like a fire. The peoples will be burned to lime. Like this is we're talking about more about that burial and cremation. Like cut thorns which are burned in the fire. You who are far away, hear what I have done, and you who are near, acknowledge my might. The sinners in Zion are terrified. Trembling has seized the godless. Who among us can live with the consuming fire? Who among us can live with everlasting burning? I want to turn this back to King James because at the end of that, the King James I think is a lot more clear. It says, the sinners in Zion are afraid. The fearfulness has surprised the hypocrites. And I got to ask, who is living in the land, the physical land of Zion now? I believe these are sinners. These are people who, though the world reveres them and lifts them up and say these are God's chosen people, they've denied his son. They said thousands of years ago, his blood be on us and on our children. Okay. These are people that, have denied his son. Like, what else do I say? What more can I say? And they're still walking in the same traditions of their fathers that Messiah was calling out 2,000 years ago. And because of this, they're hypocrites. What did he call the Pharisees and the Sadducees? Hypocrites. Right? You're so careful to pay a tithe of mint and anise and cumin, but you have forgotten the weightier matters of the law, justice and mercy and faith. These ought you have done, and not to leave the others undone. He called them hypocrites. Well did Isaiah prophesy of you hypocrites, saying, this people draws nigh to me with their mouth, and with their lips do honor me, but their heart is far from me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. I can tell you right now, the Jewish people have only added to those traditions and those hypocrisies in these doctrines of men. And I'm not here to judge them myself. I just as Yah's heart is that everyone would repent, I wish they'd all repent and believe in the Son and come to the true faith, but they're not. And so the sinners in Zion are afraid. Fearfulness has surprised the hypocrites. This goes to me, along with the inhabitants of Canaan shall melt away. And it also says, what is it? Notwithstanding, the land shall be desolate because of them that dwell. Oh, I think that's... Oh, yeah, that's going to be in Zephaniah. We'll read that in a second. So Ezekiel 22:15 through 24, and I will scatter you among the heathen. So this is 70 AD. I'm going to scatter you among the heathen and disperse you in the countries, and will consume your filthiness out of you. And you shall take your inheritance in yourself, and thou shalt take your inheritance in yourself in the sight of the heathen, and you shall know that I am Yahweh. And the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, the house of Israel is to me become dross. Dross is worthless metal that's burned off in the fire. All they are brass, tin, and iron, and lead in the midst of the furnace. They are even the dross of silver, the waste parts. And you're not even silver that needs to be refined. You're just waste parts is what he's saying. Therefore, thus says Yahweh Elohim, because you are all become dross, or waste metal, behold, therefore, I will gather you into the midst of Jerusalem, which, people say this 1948 thing is from Yah. I agree. As they gather silver, brass, and iron, and lead, and tin into the midst of the furnace to blow the fire upon it, to melt it, so will I gather you in my anger and in my fury, and I will leave you there and melt you. So this is not like a refiner's fire. This is, I'm going to destroy you fire. Yea, I will gather you and blow upon you in the fire of my wrath, and ye shall be melted in the midst of it. As silver is melted in the midst of the furnace, so shall you be melted in the midst thereof, and ye shall know that I, Yahweh, have poured out my fury upon you. And the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, say unto her, Jerusalem, you are the land that is not cleansed, nor rained upon in the day of indignation, because it's going to be literally annihilated. It's going to melt away. Canaan is going to melt away. Zephaniah 1:14 through 2:13, this is all about the day of Yahweh. It says, the great day of Yahweh is near, it is near, and hastes greatly. Even the voice of the day of Yahweh, the mighty man shall cry there bitterly. That is a day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of wasteness and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of chaos and thick darkness, a day of the trumpet and alarm against the fenced cities and against the high towers. And I will bring distress upon men, that they shall walk like blind men. Why? Because we talked about that earlier in Deuteronomy 28. Because they have forsaken the Torah. Because they have sinned against Yahweh, and their blood shall be poured out as dust, and their flesh as dung. Neither their silver nor their gold shall be able to deliver them in the day of Yahweh's wrath. But the whole land shall be devoured by the fire of his jealousy, for he shall even make a speedy riddance of all them that dwell in the land. What land do you think he's talking about? He's talking about these hypocrites, these sinners in Zion. He's talking about the inhabitants of Canaan shall melt away. Gather yourselves together, yea, gather yourselves together, O nation not desired, before the decree bring forth, before the day pass as the chaff, before the fierce anger of Yahweh come upon you, before the day of Yahweh's anger come upon you. Seek ye Yahweh, all ye meek of the earth, which have wrought his judgment. Seek righteousness, seek meekness. It may be that you shall be hid in the day of Yahweh's anger. Hello, I would like to be there. For Gaza shall be forsaken. Where's Gaza? And Ashkelon, a desolation. This is all talking about the land of Canaan, the land of Israel, quote unquote. They shall drive out Ashdod at the noonday. Same thing. Ekron shall be rooted up. Woe to the inhabitants of the sea coast, the nation of the Cherethites. The word of Yahweh is against you, O Canaan, the land of the Philistines. I will even destroy you, that there shall be no inhabitant. This is not yet to happen, brothers and sisters. And the sea coast shall be dwellings and cottages for shepherds, and folds for flocks. Let's talk about his flocks, the sheep of his pasture. Us. And the coast shall be for the remnant of the house of the Judah. Ah, there it is. They shall feed thereupon, right, because they're the flocks. In the houses of Ashkelon shall they lie down in the evening, for Yahweh their Elohim shall visit them and turn away their captivity. I have heard the reproach of Moab and the revilings of the children of Ammon, whereby they have reproached my people and magnified themselves against their border. Therefore, as I live, says Yahweh Sabaoth, the Elohim of Israel, surely Moab shall be as Sodom, and the children of Ammon as Gomorrah. Hasn't happened yet. Even the breeding of nettles and the salt pits and a perpetual desolation hasn't happened yet. The residue of my people shall spoil them, and the remnant of my people shall possess them. Hasn't happened yet. This shall they have for their pride, because they have reproached and magnified themselves against the people of Yahweh Sabaoth. For Yahweh will be terrible unto them, for he will famish all the Elohim of the earth, and men shall worship him, every one from his place, even all the isles of the heathen. You Ethiopians also, you shall be slain by my sword. And he will stretch out his hand against the north and destroy Assyria, and he will make Nineveh a desolation and a dry wilderness. What's my point here? Is those of you that know your geography, all these little areas, Israel, or aka Canaan, Nineveh, we know it talks about Syria, or it's talking about Lebanon, it's talking about Ethiopia. This whole Levant area is going to get destroyed, and so that's why I believe it's talking about in a way of prophecy here. And then here, fear and dread shall fall upon them by the greatness of your arm. They shall be as still as a stone till your people pass over. So it's like that. We're going to read 2nd Ezra. It's going to say the nations shall be envious of you, but they won't be able to do anything against you. Because it says here, they shall be as still as a stone till your people pass over, O Yahweh, till the people pass over, which you have purchased. I believe this is talking about prophetically. You'll see that here. 2nd Ezra 2, 26 through 28. Not one of the servants whom I have given you will perish, for I will require them from among your number. Do not be anxious, for when the day of tribulation and anguish comes, others shall weep and be sorrowful, but you, of course, you want to say you who have faith and obedience, shall rejoice and have abundance. The nations shall envy you, but they shall not be able to do anything against you, says Yahweh. Boom. That's how our Elohim rolls. Micah 7. I like this one also. Micah 7. Micah 7, 11 through 20. A day for the building of your walls, New Jerusalem. And that day the boundary shall be far extended, 1,500 miles by 1,500 miles by 1,500 miles. In that day they will come to you from Assyria to Egypt, and from Egypt to the river, from sea to sea, and from mountain to mountain. But the earth, or in most translations, the land, will be desolate because of its inhabitants for the fruits of their doings. I believe this is specifically talking about Canaan. Shepherd your people with your staff, the flock of your inheritance, who dwell alone in a forest, in the midst of a garden land. Let them feed in Bashan and Gilead, as in the days of old. As in the days when you came out of the land of Egypt, I will show them marvelous things. So he's like, hey, we're going to have a redo of the Exodus. And we know in Jeremiah, twice he says it's going to be bigger. The nations shall see and be ashamed of all their might. They shall lay their hands on their mouths. Their ears shall be deaf. They shall lick the dust like a serpent, like the crawling things of the earth. They shall come trembling out of their holes, it says in other translations, or strongholds. They shall turn in dread to Yahweh Elohim, and they shall fear because of you. Who is an Elohim like you, pardoning iniquity and passing over transgression for the remnant of his inheritance? He does not retain his anger forever, because he delights in steadfast love. He will again have compassion upon us. He will tread our iniquities underfoot. You will cast all of our sins into the depths of the sea. You will show faithfulness to Jacob and steadfast love to Abraham, as you have sworn to our fathers from the days of old. What an Elohim we serve, truly. And why are the people of the earth going to be afraid? Because it's going to be Yahweh's army. Zechariah 9 through 17. Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout aloud, O daughter of Jerusalem. Lo, your king comes to you. Triumphant and victorious is he, humble and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey. So humility first, then exaltation. Messiah, he's the pattern. We are humble, meek first, lowly, long-suffering, right? But when the time is over, he's going to exalt us, and we will be like him. Glorified bodies. I will cut off the chariot from Ephraim and the war horse from Jerusalem, and the battle bow shall be cut off, and he shall command peace to the nations. His dominion shall be from sea to sea and from river to the ends of the earth. Also, as for you, because of the blood of my covenant with you, I will set your captives free from the waterless pit. Return to your stronghold, O prisoners of hope. Today I declare that I will restore to you double, aka this is the first resurrection. And when this happens, for I have bent Judah as my bow, I have made Ephraim its arrow, and I will brandish your sons, O Zion, over your sons, O Greece. This is other translations, O nations, and wield you like a warrior's sword. Then will Yahweh appear over them, his people, the two sticks coming together, and his arrow will go forth like lightning. Yahweh will sound the trumpet or the shofar and march forth in the whirlwinds of the south. Yahweh Sebaot will protect them, and they shall devour and tread down the slingers, and they shall drink their blood like wine. I don't know, that's going to be literal. And be full like a bowl, drenched like the corners of the altar. On that day, Yahweh their Elohim, I'm pretty sure I know that they won't be literally drinking their blood. On that day, Yahweh their Elohim will save them, for they are the flock of his people. For like the jewels of a crown, they shall shine on his land. Yea, how good and how fair it shall be. Grain shall make the young men flourish, and new wine the maidens. All right, let's get back to, I'm just going to close a couple of these tabs. I'm getting tabbed out here. Okay. Verse 21. And it says, and Miriam answered them, saying, sing ye to Yahweh, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider has he thrown into the sea. We're going to sing this all together one day, if you didn't know that. Revelation 15 says so. Verse 1, and I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 last plagues, for in them is filled up the wrath of Elohim. And I saw as it were a sea of glass, mingled with fire, and them that had gotten the victory over the beast, and over his image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, stand on the sea of glass, having the harps of Elohim. And they sing the song of Moses, the servant of Elohim, and the song of the Lamb, saying, great and marvelous. Maybe we'll play that today. Great and marvelous are your works, Yahweh Almighty. Just and true are your ways, you King of saints. Who shall not fear you, O Yahweh, and glorify your name? For you only are holy. For all nations shall come and worship before you, for your judgments are made manifest. But the point being here is that, of course, we're going to sing, say we, those who are found worthy. I can't claim that that's me or you, any of us. I don't know. I'm just dust like Abraham, right? We're just nothing. What do I know? All I know is to read this and to do what it says. That's simple. He preserved his word for us. This is what we're supposed to be doing as we tarry, or as Messiah tarries and we wait for him. This is what we do. We read his word, we study it, and we walk it out in our lives. I'll tell you, and it's much more important to walk this out in your life than to sit there and read. I can't speak for Yah, but I would imagine he's much more interested in how much of this you can apply to your life more than how much you memorize and how much you know, because it's about our actions. Verse 24 of Exodus 15 says, and the people murmured against Moshe, saying, what shall we drink? I just put a little note here. No matter how much one of Israel's leaders do for the people, they are always so quick, or the people are always so quick to turn on them. I'm just thinking about Moses here. We have plenty of examples. David, just a quick reminder of David. He slayed the giant. He was a literal hero, a legend already in his time. He was a great general, all these battles. He became the king of Israel, was the best king ever, righteous, merciful. And when his son came to take over, all the people turned on him, And I'm sure some people turned on him because of David's actions, with Bathsheba and Uriah. But nevertheless, he repented. Yah forgave him and didn't kill him. Some would say because there weren't multiple witnesses, whatever. I don't know. Nevertheless, Yah forgave him. Of course, we know that. But we can see that other people did not. Point being is David did so much for Yah's people, and they were so quick to turn on him. All the millions of Israel turned on him, except for 600 people stayed loyal to him. Of course, Messiah. What a great example of doing service to the body, of doing service to the people, literally laying down his life, and they hated him, and they wanted to crucify him. Verse 25, and he cried to El Yahweh, and Yahweh showed him a tree, which when he had cast into the waters were made sweet. There he made for them a statute and an ordinance, and there he proved them. And so, again, just all the things that Yah does for them, and they want to even turn, what are we going to drink? And 2 Esdras 1, 7 through 14, was it not I who brought them out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage? But they have angered me and despised my counsels. Pull out the hair of your head and hurl all evils upon them, for they have not obeyed my law. They are a rebellious people. How long shall I endure them, on whom I have bestowed such great benefits? For their sake I have overthrown many kings. I struck down Pharaoh with his servants and all his army. I have destroyed all nations before them and scattered in the east the people of 2 provinces, Tyre and Sidon. I have slain all their enemies. But speak to them and say, Thus says Yahweh, surely it was I who brought you through the sea and made safe highways for you where there was no road. I gave you Moses as a leader and Aaron as priest. I provided light for you from a pillar of fire and did great wonders among you, yet you have forgotten me, says Yahweh. A little bit later on down there, verse 22, Thus says El Shaddai, when you were in the wilderness at the bitter stream, thirsty and blaspheming my name, we just read this right now, I did not send fire upon you for your blasphemies, but threw a tree into the water and made the stream sweet. Praise be to Yah for what he has done. Okay, I think we are ready for 16, but let's do this. I have a quick, actually we're gonna do the documentary at the end. I have a 7-minute clip of the documentary we did 3 years ago now. We did a documentary about how we can prove the scriptures are true, not even taking faith. So for people that are like, I want proof. I want proof the Bible is true. Well, hey, guess what? We're living in a time where there is proof. Praise Yah. A lot of us came to faith without proof, and some of us need proof and some of us don't. We're living in a time where there is proof that proves the Bible is true, especially when you come into the Exodus story and the Red Sea crossing. So actually, I'll play that at the end. So we're going to get to chapter 16, which is all about manna and the Sabbath, and then we'll finish up with 17, and I'll play that clip at the end. So stay till the end if you're interested in that. And speaking of which, I'll introduce you guys to the whole documentary. I know the viewership changes all the time here, so some of you here may have no idea that I even made a documentary 3 years ago. So I'd love to introduce you to that. So let's go to 16. We'll listen in, and then we'll talk about it.
Shemot, Exodus, chapter 16. And they took their journey from Elim, and all the assembly of the children of Yashrael came unto the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the 2nd month after their departing out of the land of Mitzrayim. And the whole assembly of the children of Yashrael murmured against Moshe and Aharon in the wilderness. And the children of Yashrael said unto them,
Would to Elohim we had died by the hand of Yahuwah in the land of Mitzrayim, when we sat by the flesh pots, and when we did eat bread to the full. For ye have brought us forth into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger.
Then said Yahuwah unto Moshe,
Behold, I will rain bread from heavens for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them, whether they will walk in my Torah or no. And it shall come to pass that on the 6th day they shall prepare that which they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily.
And Moshe and Aharon said unto all the children of Yashrael,
At evening, then ye shall know what Yahuwah has brought out of the land of Mitzrayim.
And in the morning, then ye shall see the glory of Yahuwah, for that he hears your murmurings against Yahuwah.
And what are we, that ye murmur against us?
And Moshe said, This shall be, when Yahuwah shall give you in the evening flesh to eat, and in the morning bread to the full, for that Yahuwah hears your murmurings which you murmur against him. And what are we? Your murmurings are not against us, but against Yahuwah. And Moshe spoke unto El Aharon, Say unto all the assembly of the children of Yashrael, Come near before Yahuwah, for he has heard your murmurings. And it came to pass, as Aharon spoke unto the whole assembly of the children of Yashrael, that they looked toward the wilderness, and behold, the glory of Yahuwah appeared in the cloud. And Yahuwah spoke unto Moshe, saying,
I have heard the murmurings of the children of Yasharel. Speak unto them, saying, At evening ye shall eat flesh, and in the morning ye shall be filled with bread, and ye shall know that I am Yahuwah Elohim.
And it came to pass that at evening the quails came up and covered the camp, and in the morning the dew lay around about the host. And when the dew that lay was gone up, behold, upon the face of the wilderness there lay a small round thing, as small as the hoarfrost on the ground. And when the children of Yashrael saw it, they said one to another, It is manna, for they knew not what it was. And Moshe said unto them, This is the bread which Yahweh has given you to eat. This is the thing which Yahweh has commanded. Gather of it every man according to his eating, an omer for every man, according to the number of your persons. Take you every man for them which are in his tents. And the children of Yasharel did so, and gathered some more, some less. And when they did meet it with an omer, he that gathered much had nothing over, and he that gathered little had no lack. They gathered every man according to his eating. And Moshe said, Let no man leave of it till the morning. Notwithstanding, they hearkened not unto Moshe. But some of them left of it until the morning, and it bred worms and stank. And Moshe was wroth with them. And they gathered it every morning, every man according to his eating. And when the sun waxed hot, it melted. And it came to pass that on the 6th day they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for one man. And all the rulers of the assembly came and told Moshe. And he said unto them, This is that which Yahweh has said. Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Shabbat unto Yahweh. Bake that which you will bake today, and seethe that you will seethe, and that which remains over lay up for you to be kept until the morning. And they laid it up till the morning as Moshe bade, and it did not stink, neither was there any worm therein. And Moshe said, Eat that today, for today is a Shabbat unto Yahweh. Today you shall not find it in the field. 6 days shall ye gather it, but on the 7th day, which is the Shabbat, in it there shall be none. And it came to pass that there went out some of the people on the 7th day for to gather, and they found none. And Yahweh said unto Moshe,
How long refuse ye to guard my commandments and my Torah? See for that Yahuwah has given you the Sabbath. Therefore, he gives you on the 6th day the bread of 2 days. Abide ye every man in his place. Let no man go out of his place on the 7th day.
So the people rested on the 7th day. And the house of Yasharel called the name thereof manna. And it was like coriander seed, white, and the taste of it was like wafers made with honey. And Moshe said, This is the thing which Yahweh commands. Fill an omer of it to be kept for your generations, that they may see the bread wherewith I have fed you in the wilderness, when I brought you forth from the land of Mitzrayim. And Moshe said unto Aaron, Take a pot, and put an omer full of manna therein, and lay it up before Yahweh, to be kept for your generations. As Yahweh commanded Moshe, so Aaron laid it up before the testimony to be kept. And the children of Yasharel did eat manna 40 years, until they came to a land inhabited. They did eat manna until they came unto the borders of the land of Canaan. Now, an omer is a 10th part of an ephah.
That's right. An omer is the 10th part of an ephah. That's right. Okay, let's talk about this. Let's go back to the beginning of 16. Let's scroll up. 16:3. It says, right, well, first verse 2, the whole assembly of Yasharel murmured against Moshe. And then verse 3, and the children of Yasharel said to them, Would to Elohim we had died by the hand of Yahweh in the land of Mitzrayim, when we sat by the flesh pots, and when we did eat bread to the full, for you have brought us forth into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. Yeah, so totally slandering and gossiping against Moshe. I think this is an excellent reminder to never be too comfy with our situation here in Egypt, America, because we are able to eat well here. When I say eat well, I know everyone has different situations here, but the availability of food, when I say food, the availability of high quality food is here. Of course, there's tons of junk food, GMO food, fast food, all that food's killing us, that kind of food. But here, let me get to the point. Sorry. Numbers 11:4-8. And the mixed multitude that was among them fell a lusting. And the children of Israel also wept again and said, Who shall give us flesh to eat? We remember the fish which we did eat in Egypt freely, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, the garlic. But now our soul is dried away. There is nothing at all beside this manna before our eyes. And I'll be honest, I can understand first of all, flesh to eat. Like I like eating meat. There was a time in my life where I was a vegetarian for years, and I'm in a season of my life now where I'm convinced that meat is good for us. And I know some of you are like, oh no, it's terrible. It rots in your stomach. I don't know. I don't agree. The Bible is a meat book. When I say a meat book, when we look at Torah, it's okay to eat meat. Yeah, I made it for that. The patriarchs loved meat. Some of them loved it a little too much. But my point is I enjoy eating meat. And almost on a daily basis, I'll tell you right here, onions, garlic is almost on my dinner plate every single day. So I can understand. But I think this teaches us not to be so connected to it. How do I want to say this? In a similar way, I told you about my previous life, and I used to be a gamer, and I meant to say I am no longer a gamer. I just can't mix with that. The last few games I was playing before I quit I was playing League of Legends and World of Warcraft, all sorts of Warcraft. It's all sort of witchcraft and sorcery, and League of Legends was just outright satanic. I mean, the characters I was playing with were literally satanic, and I'm just like, I was reading the Bible, and then I was playing these games. I'm like, wait a minute. I was thinking of like verses like you can't drink from the cup of Elohim and the cup of devils. And I'm like, I'm sitting here literally playing with devils. I got to stop this. So I quit video games in, at least the video game addiction I quit in, I don't know, 2016. But anyways, my point being here is, what's the point I'm trying to make here? We can't be so wrapped up in what we do have available here, especially if Messiah tells us to remember Lot's wife. He's calling upon us to remember these stories written in the Torah to help us here. 1 Corinthians 10 talks all about the wilderness experience, and he basically says, hey, all these things happened so that we can learn from them and not do the same things. I'm butchering it, but that's basically the point. And so it's like, I used to be all about cars, about racing cars and building up the engines and bigger turbos and intercoolers and fuel systems and tunes and more turbo boost. And I mean, that was my whole life, right? And cars were my life. That doesn't mean I can't have a car anymore, but it just means now that my heart is not attached to cars anymore. Like my heart is not knit to my cars. The car I used to drive, in my old life, the car I drove used to be part of who I was. It was my identity. Is how I wanted people to perceive me, as on my car or my clothes or what shoes I was wearing. And that's what I think Messiah gets the heart of, is that when he says, don't ask, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we be clothed with? Because all the nations seek these things. But first seek ye the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. So it's like now in my life, though I gave up all those things, I have a car now, but my heart's not knit to it. He's provided all these things for me, but my heart's in the right place now. My heart is fixed on Elohim and his ways. My point is we can't be so tied to these awesome foods that we have available to us today. So that what if he wanted to test us big time? What if he pulled the whole Torah community into the wilderness tomorrow, and he's like, figure it out amongst yourselves? First of all, how many people would be like, I remember the grass-fed beef I used to eat every day and the amazing wild-caught salmon from Costco at $11.99 a pound, which is a great deal. Would people do that? Would we do that? Would I do that? I love onions and garlic and salt and pepper and cayenne pepper. I put cayenne pepper on almost everything I eat. Ask my wife. True story. All right, so my point being is here, we can't get so attached, and we need to learn from these lessons. Certainly we enjoy these things because he's given to us, but let them not be the fullness of our heart. Because look, they were so tied to their food, and we read last week, I'll read it actually here in a second. But it was very, here, let's just read this, the commentary. This is a commentary. It says, the Israelites had been well fed in Egypt. They had been nourished upon flesh, fish, bread, abundant vegetables, especially cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic. It was the habit of the Egyptians to feed well those whom they employed in forced labors, just as slave owners commonly do to their slaves. The remembrance of the past abundance intensified the pain felt at the present want. And so yes, America does the same thing. They were well feeding. Now, the food that's actually going in people's mouths are not, of course, healthy for the most part, but well fed is this general thing. And what if that gets cut off for most people? I'd say most people in this world have not even fasted 24 hours. What would they do if they went without food for 24 hours? You see this here, because when the food was taken away, what they say, their response is, our soul is dried away. There's nothing at all, right? And so it was like the whole of their life was being well fed, and they were well fed in Egypt, and that's why they wanted to go back. So let's learn our lessons. Let's not be so attached to food. Boy, that took me a long time to make that point. I'm sorry. Okay. Let's go to, and then here's today. This is today's food. They're going to be like, where is that Wendy's double stack that my soul did enjoy? Where is that pepperoni pizza palooza from Domino's, right? Hopefully none of his people will be saying that, because that's illegal. You know what I mean? Like this rules over people. And I know there's a time in my life where I believe food ruled over me. I've been honest with you all in that my struggle to keep the fruits of the Spirit. Self-control has been my hardest one, and food has been the hardest one. So I'm speaking from understanding how food can have control over people. But Yah be praised. I believe I'm walking in full deliverance of this, and will continue and never fall off the train ever again. When I say the train, the eating right train, and not letting food be an idol, which it obviously was. And I think this is one of the general precepts we should learn here about this. And even if we just are at a point where we're just eating manna every day, we should be okay with that. And we'll talk more about that, but contentment in just a second. Let's go to verse 4 here of Exodus 16. Then said Yahweh to Moshe, behold, I will rain bread from the heavens for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them whether they will walk in my Torah or no. And what's interesting is he gave of his son that he could prove them whether they would walk in his Torah or not. So it's interesting because Messiah is the real bread from heaven. He declares it. John 6:47 through 58, verily, verily, I say to you, he that believes on me has everlasting life. I am that bread of life. Your fathers did eat manna in the wilderness and are dead. This is the bread which comes down from heaven, that a man may eat thereof and not die. Praise be to Yah. I am the living bread which came down from heaven. If any man eat of this bread, he shall live forever. And the bread that I will give is my flesh, which I will give for the life of the world. It's kind of interesting. In a similar way, they had to give up all these yummy, refined foods. Not refined. Refined's the wrong word. These yummy foods that add so much richness and flavor to eating. They had to give that up for something simple in order to be obedient. Now, it's kind of interesting in Messiah in a certain ways. We have to give up our worldly lives. We have to crucify the flesh. We have to die to self daily. Put to death the deeds of the flesh in order that we may live and gain Messiah. Very similar way. For I will give my flesh, which I will give for the life of the world. The Jews therefore strove among themselves, saying, how can this man give us his flesh to eat? So anyways, we know how the rest it is, but he says, he that eats my flesh and drinks my blood dwells in me, and I in him, as the living Father has sent me, and I live by the Father. So he that eats me even shall live by me. This is another alluding to the Torah. It says, when we walk, I'm messing it up. It's oh, what? It's not Deuteronomy 30. I forgot what it was. Yeah, I'm just drawing a blank. Some of you out there are like, how do I know what verse it is? John 14:21, he that has my commandments and keeps them, he it is that loves me, and he that loves me shall be loved of my Father, and I will love him and will manifest myself to him. Matthew 22:8 through 14, then he said to his servants, the wedding is ready, but they which were bidden were not worthy. Go ye therefore into the highways, and as many as ye shall find, bid to the marriage. So this is talking about the Israel was bidden to the marriage, but they were not found worthy. Now go into the highways and find anyone. This is the opening up to the nations. So those servants went out into the highways and gathered together as many as they found, both bad and good, and the wedding was furnished with guests. And when the king came in to see the guests, he saw there a man which had not on a wedding garment. And he said unto him, Friend, how came you in here not having a wedding garment? And he was speechless. Then said the king to his servants, Bind him hand and foot, and take him away, and cast him into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, few are chosen. So many were called out of Egypt into the wilderness. Very few were chosen. The story remains the same today. Matthew 13:47 through 50. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a net that was cast into the sea and gathered of every kind. We'll call it Christianity. Everyone that believes in Messiah. Which, when it was full, they drew to shore and sat down and gathered the good into vessels, but the bad he cast away. So shall it be at the end of the world. The angels shall come forth and sever the wicked from among the just, as in the wicked are defined as those who do not keep the commandments, the Torah, and shall cast them into the furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Let's go to Exodus 16:8. Moshe said, This shall be when Yahweh shall give you in the evening flesh to eat, and in the morning bread to the full. Since the evening to evening, morning to morning debate is always so lively, this to me would just be more another just nod towards evening. This is when the food started. It started at evening. Is it because it started halfway through the day, or when the new day started? Yeah. Exodus 16:18, it says, And when they did meet it with an omer, he that gathered much had nothing over, and he that gathered little had no lack. They gathered every man according to his eating. We call that being content. You're content with what they have. They had enough. Philippians 4:11 through 13. Not that I speak from need, for I have learned to be content in whatever circumstances I am. In whatever circumstances Yah has you in. I know how to get along with little, and I also know how to live in prosperity. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of being filled and going hungry, both of having abundance and suffering need. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. And truly, that is the blessing of those who trust in Messiah, those who trust in Yah and walk according to his ways. We have no need. And when we have that shalom that surpasses all wisdom, we're okay if we can go hungry for a little bit. We're okay. We can handle it. Let's go back to Exodus 16:23. He said to them, This is that which Yahweh said, Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Shabbat unto Yahweh. Bake that which you will bake today, and seethe that which you will seethe, and that which remains over lay up for you to be kept until the morning. Now, this passage is one of the most number one passages people use to say that we can't cook on Shabbat. But I'd like to put forth an argument to share that I don't believe that is the right interpretation of that. So what's interesting is there's the word, people imply that he's saying here, let's read it again. This is that which Yahweh said, tomorrow is the rest of the holy Shabbat. We don't know exactly what time of the day he's saying this. But nevertheless, he says, tomorrow is the rest of the holy Shabbat unto Yahweh. Now this is what he says, bake that which you will bake today, and seethe that which you will seethe, and that which remains over lay up for you to be kept until the morning. Now, what he could have said, bake everything today and seethe everything today. He didn't say that. He says, bake that which you will bake. The word kol or hakol, which means all or everything, was not used here at all. He could have. He could have said, bake akol, everything, all of it, but he didn't. Nevertheless, I want to share it with you. I do have an article called Cooking on Shabbat. Is it okay? A lot of people say no. I believe that that's a Jewish tradition that's been carried on and has seeped into the Torah movement. I believe beyond a shadow of a doubt that people are allowed to cook on Shabbat. One of the case in points I'd like to bring evidence is Exodus 12:16. And in the first day there shall be a holy convocation, and in the seventh day there shall be a holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, that only may be done of you. Now, let's stop for a second. This is talking about the week of unleavened bread. It's talking about the first day, and it's talking about the seventh day. People have said, save what every man must eat, as an aka cooking, because it's talking about the Passover meal, which you must eat. But it's talking about the first day and the seventh day, and it's talking about how no work except for cooking. Now, what's interesting is if you look at the 6 other feasts, now we know that in Day of Atonement there is no eating, so of course it doesn't say anything, but the other feasts, which are feasts, which do include gathering together, which do include eating, especially Sukkot, right? It's supposed to be a holy convocation and eating. There's no mention of it's okay to cook. Well, why would Yah say it's okay to cook on the 1st and 7th day of Passover, but be absent in saying anything for anywhere else, for the weekly Sabbath, for Sukkot, for anything else? Why? It's because he already told you. He's already told you right here. This is a pattern that you can look at for other feast days. During this feast day, on the 1st and the 7th day, he's like, hey, no work. It's Shabbat. Chill out. But hey, everyone's got to eat. So you can do nothing except for which everyone man must eat. I believe the same goes for the Shabbat. Because it's a day of no work and a day to Yah. The first day of unleavened bread, 7th day, so is the weekly Shabbat. But anyways, I have a whole article on why I believe you can cook on Shabbat and why this is not saying what I think some people interpret it to be saying. Because he could just be like, bake and see everything you have today and then just put it in your refrigerator. Just save it up for tomorrow. That's not how it worked back then. They had daily bread. They ground every single day. The miracle here, right? They laid it up till the morning. What would they lay up? The manna, not bread, but not made bread. Because remember, this is like wheat. They had to grind it up. They had to grind up and bake it, or grind it up and fry it. And so they laid it up till the morning as Moshe bade, and it did not stink, neither was there any worm therein. And it was manna that bred worms. It wasn't leftover assembled food. It was the raw manna that they left over until the morning, and then they made the daily bread that day. At least is how I understand it. Exodus 16:29, see, for that Yahweh has given you the Shabbat, therefore he gives you on the 6th day the bread for 2 days. Abide ye every man in his place. Let no man go out of his place on the 7th day. Here's an interesting verse here where I believe that this command was specifically for this time and specifically for the time during the manna. And here's why. Because there's some people, and the reason I'm bringing this up, there's people that don't go to house fellowships, to gatherings, because they're like, hey, it says here, don't go out of his place on the 7th day. So that's reasonable. I would be like, okay. But we have to understand that Messiah is our perfect example. And if you don't agree on that, then this is not going to be a good point for you. I believe Messiah is the perfect example of how to properly walk out Torah. Luke 4:14 through 16, and Yahusha returned to Galilee in the power of the Spirit, and news about him spread through all the surrounding region. And he began teaching in their synagogues and was praised by all. And he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and as it was his custom, he entered the synagogue on the Sabbath and stood up to read. So he left his place on the Shabbat. So perhaps Messiah is showing us that this is not an everlasting command. This is not something that this is just specifically for those people and according to the manna. Matthew 12:1, at that time Yahusha went through the grain fields on the Sabbath, and his disciples became hungry and began to pick the heads of grain and eat. So the reason, and furthermore, I thought I had maybe one more. Yeah, 1 John 2:6, the one who says that he remains in him, Messiah, ought himself also to walk just as he walked. And in Hebrews 10:24 through 25, and let us consider how to encourage one another in love and good deeds, not abandoning our own meeting together, as is the habit of some people, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day draw near. And I believe this is talking about the meeting is the assembly, the kahal, the gathering of his people, the holy convocation, as it's called. Exodus 16:36 says, now an omer is a 10th part of an ephah. So now you know. Now you know. I mean, what is an omer and what's an ephah? Once again, we go to the trusty wiki, which I don't. They go through this whole rundown of how to get there. Yeah. The omer was equal to about 12/100ths of a maris. The maris was defined as being the quantity of water equal in weight to a light royal talent, and was thus equal to about 30.3 liters, 8 gallons, making the omer equal to about 3.64 liters, about almost 1 gallon. The Jewish study Bible, however, places the omer at about 2.3 liters, about 0.61 U.S. gallons. So that's a lot. If each person... Right, what does it say? Fill an omer. Oh, that's for. Or what do they gather each day? Yeah, Yeah, an omer for each man, and an omer for every man. So if an omer is almost a gallon of grain, like that's a lot. Maybe half a gallon would make a little more sense as far as if any of you have ever milled grain. If you milled a half a gallon of grain, like that'd be a lot for one person to eat per day. So I think they are well fed. Is the point. One last little point, and we're going to finish up with 17. This is 2nd Baruch. We're going to read 2nd Baruch 29. 1st Baruch was in the Apocrypha. 2nd Baruch was not, but nevertheless, this is his second book. And I would like to just share with you one passage here. 2nd Baruch 29. It's talking about the end times here. It says, "And he answered and said to me, whatsoever will then befall will befall the whole earth. Therefore all who live will experience them. For at that time I will protect only those who are found in those selfsame days in this land." I believe it's talking about New Jerusalem. "And it shall come to pass when all is accomplished that was to come to pass in those parts, that Hamashiach shall then begin to be revealed. And Behemoth shall be revealed from his place, and Leviathan shall ascend from the sea, those two great monsters which I created on the 5th day of creation, and shall have kept until that time. And then shall they be for food for all that are left. The earth also shall yield its fruit 10,000-fold, and on each vine there shall be 1,000 branches, and each branch shall produce 1,000 clusters, and each cluster shall produce 1,000 grapes, and each grape shall produce a core of wine. And those who have hungered shall rejoice. Moreover, also they shall behold marvels every day. For winds shall go forth from before me to bring every morning the fragrance of aromatic fruits, and at the close of the day clouds distilling the dew of health. And it shall come to pass at that selfsame time that the treasury of manna shall again descend from on high, and they will eat of it in those years, because these are they who have come to the consummation of times." I want to eat manna. How about you? All right, let's finish up with 17. It's a short little part here, and I've got just a few quick little notes, and we are done with this week's Torah portion. So let's go to 17.
Shemot, Exodus, chapter 17. "And all the assembly of the children of Yasharel journeyed from the wilderness of Sin after their journeys, according to the commandment of Yahweh, and pitched in Rephidim, and there was no water for the people to drink. Wherefore the people did chide with Moshe, and said,
Give us water, that we may drink.
And Moshe said unto them, Why chide ye with me? Wherefore do you tempt Yahweh? And the people thirsted there for water. And the people murmured against Moshe and said,
Wherefore is it that you have brought us up out of Mitzrayim, to kill us and our children and our cattle with thirst?
And Moshe cried unto Yahweh, saying, What shall I do unto this people? They be almost ready to stone me. And Yahweh said unto Moshe,
Go on before the people, and take with you the elders of Yasharel, and your rod, wherewith you smote the river, take in your hand, and go. Behold, I will stand before you there upon the rock in Horeb, and you shall smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it, that people may drink.
And Moshe did so in the sight of the elders of Yasharel. And he called the name of the place Massa and Meribah, because of the chiding of the children of Yasharel, and because they tempted Yahweh, saying,
Is Yahweh among us or not?
Then came Amalek, and fought with Yasharel and Rephidim. And Moshe said unto Yahusha, Choose us out men, and go out, fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on the top of the hill with the rod of Elohim in my hand. So Yahusha did as Moshe had said to him, and fought with Amalek. And Moshe and Aharon and Hur went up to the top of the hill. And it came to pass, when Moshe held up his hand, that Yasharel prevailed. And when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. But Moshe's hands were heavy, and they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat thereon. And Aharon and Hur stayed up his hands, the one on the one side, and the other on the other side. And his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. And Yahusha discomfited Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. And Yahweh said unto Moshe,
Write this for a memorial in a sefer, and rehearse it in the ears of Yahusha, for I will utterly put out the remembrance of Amalek from under the heavens.
And Moshe built an altar, and called the name of it Yahweh Nisai. For he said, Because Yah has sworn, that Yahweh will have war with Amalek from generation to generation.
Okay, I got a couple points I just want to talk about, and I also have some announcements. So if you join me for those, so let's go to Exodus 17:7. And he called the name of that place Massa and Meribah, because the children of Yasharel, because they tempted Yahweh, saying, "Is he not amongst us?" But I actually meant to read 6. Behold, I will stand before you there upon the rock in Horeb, and you shall smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it, that the people may drink. And that's a lot of people know that this is the story of Messiah. Of course, he was smitten, and out of it came flowing water, literally because he was pierced, but really the Spirit was poured out because of, and that's what he says in John 16. I must go away, but if I go away, the Comforter must come. But the point I want to make here is Messiah he's the rock, and he's the rock all throughout the scriptures. We read this earlier, 1 Corinthians 10:14, and did all drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Messiah. John 7:38, he that believes on me, as the scripture has said, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water, the Ruach HaKodesh. John 4:14, but whoever drinks of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst, but the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. Deuteronomy 32:1-4, give ear, O ye heavens, and I will speak, and hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. My doctrine shall drop as the rain, my speech shall distill as the dew, as the small rain upon the tender herb, and as the showers upon the grass. Because I will publish the name of Yahweh, ascribe ye greatness unto our Elohim. He is the rock. His work is perfect, for all his ways are judgment. A Elohim of truth and without iniquity, just and right is he. Hallelujah. Exodus 17:12. Moshe's hands were heavy, took a stone, put it under him. Point being is, hey, Moses needed help. Those of you that are in assemblies that have, maybe leaders or just elders or whatever, help them. Help them. Like, leaders need help. Don't fight them. Help them. Chapter 17. Okay, so yeah, we're just going to read a little bit of Jasher, and I think we're done. And again, I got a couple of announcements, so don't leave. Jasher 81:52. And when the children of Israel were in Rephidim, Amalek, the son of Eliphaz, we're going to learn why Amalek's name is blotted out, because not too many people's names are talked about being blotted out. Amalek, the son of Eliphaz, the son of Esau, the brother of Zepho, interesting his name comes up today, because Baal Zephon, came to fight with Israel. He brought with him 801,000 men, magicians, conjurers, and he prepared for battle with Israel in Rephidim. And they carried on a great and severe battle against Israel. And Yahweh delivered Amalek and his people into the hands of Moses, and the children of Israel into the hands of Joshua the son of Nun, the Ephrathite, the servant of Moses. And the children of Israel smote Amalek and his people at the edge of the sword, but the battle was very sore upon the children of Israel. And Yahweh said to Moses, write this thing as a memorial for you in a book, and place it in the hand of Joshua the son of Nun, thy servant, and you shall command the children of Israel, saying, when you shall come to the land of Canaan, you shall utterly efface the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. Why? Yeah. And Moses did so, and he took the book and wrote upon it these words, saying, remember what Amalek has done to you in the road when you went forth from Egypt, who met you in the road and smote your rear, even those that were feeble behind you when you were faint and weary. I'll tell you, again, being in the military, I've been on long, miles-long hikes and marches before, and the weak will go to the back. Naturally, just go to the back. The people who are not strong go to the back. So that's going to be your elderly. Not that we had elderly in the military, but of course it would be your elderly, families of small children, the weak. So the weak naturally went to the rear, and so Amalek went to the rear and smote the weak. When you were faint and weary, therefore it shall be, when Yahweh your Elohim shall have given you the rest from all your enemies round about you in the land which Yahweh your Elohim gives you for an inheritance to possess it, that you shall blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven, thou shalt not forget it. And the king who shall have pity on Amalek, or upon his memory, or upon his seed, behold, I will require it of him. So if Saul would have properly read this book, he would have been properly prepared, and I'll cut him from amongst his people. And Moses wrote all these things in a book, and he enjoined the children of Israel respecting all these matters. Just a few last verses. We're going to read the Exodus 17. And all the congregation of the sons of Yashrael journeyed from the desert of Sin by their journeyings according to the word of Yahweh. There he is again. And they encamped in Rephidim, a place where their hands were idle in the commandments of the Torah, and the fountains were dry, and there was no water for the people to drink. Kind of interesting. Maybe a coincidence of relating the slacking of the law in their lives versus being a drought, when the law itself, of course, is as water, right? His doctrine is like the rain. It's like water. So when his doctrine is void, the rain is void. So Exodus 17:13 from the Aramaic. And Yehusha shattered Amalek, cut off the heads of the strong men of his people by the mouth of the word of Yahweh with the slaughter of the sword. And Moshe built an altar and called the name of it, the word of Yahweh is my banner. So again, you just see the word over here. And he said, because the word of Yahweh has sworn by the throne of his glory that he by his word will fight against those of the house of Amalek. Yeah. So anyways, well, brothers and sisters, the Torah portion is over. However, don't leave. I got a couple of announcements for you. I would like to share a couple things. Now, it is Shabbat, but I'm just sharing with you this because... we're gonna do the documentary too, the 7-minute documentary. It's a 7-minute part of the documentary. What I'm going to show you, what I'm going to be sharing with you. Here we go. All right, so if you go to the Parable of the Vineyard, the homepage, go down here, and you'll see there's like, there's playlist here, documentary to the truth, a journey to the truth documentary right here. This is an 11-part playlist. We're going to play part 5, and then when we come back, I've got a couple announcements for you, so don't go anywhere. Let's see here. Where are you? Here we go. The traditional site of Mount Sinai for centuries has been in the southern tip of the Sinai Peninsula. In 530 AD, St. Catherine's Monastery was constructed at the northern foot of the mountain. This placement of the historical landmark all rests on the vision of Constantine's mother, Helena. She was known for her many visions, but she never set foot in the peninsula. And even without a shred of evidence found at her sites, they remained traditional for centuries because no one dared to challenge the queen's claims. Resting on these empty claims was also the traditional route of the Israelites out of Egypt. It was assumed that they took a route out of Goshen in a more southerly course, eventually crossing the Gulf at Suez. Years passed and more claims emerged that they simply crossed the swampy lakes near Goshen, claiming that it was no miracle, but rather natural events which can be easily explained away. No miracle needed. But these claims must ignore other important key details to the account. There are many different claims to the exact route they took and which body of water they crossed, but only one path provides an astounding amount of evidence. Let's take a look at it. Through only recent discoveries, originally by Ron Wyatt, it has been shown that much evidence describes a very different path than previously thought. In fact, one would have to seriously overlook major findings regarding this path and turn a blind eye to the implications of these discoveries. From the scriptures, we know that the Hebrews took a route through a place called Sukkot. From there and southeast, they traveled through the desert. After crossing a broad area, they came to a mountain range which would render any attempt at a massive scale migration too difficult. The region is nearly impassable, except for a very narrow canyon called Wadi. This canyon proved a relatively safe, traversable passage. For Pharaoh will say of the children of Israel, they are entangled in the land, the wilderness has shut them in. The walls of the canyon are very steep, keeping them well confined to this narrow passageway, yet still providing a passageway relatively easy to traverse. We see that the wadi comes to an end at the shore of the Gulf of Aqaba. This posed a great threat of entrapping them between the wadi and the sea. We find here that this beach, which is the only one like it on the coast, is very large enough to fit the massive multitude that left Egypt. Some say 2 to 3 million. Here on this beach, we find I don't know why I did that. Shoot, I don't want to start it from the beginning there. Well, I'll tell you what. It's, yeah. I'll leave a link for it for part 5 if you want to watch it for yourself. It really was kind of cool part of this thing, but it just stopped working. So I don't know. Maybe it's not Yah's will. Again, I'll leave a link for the study notes in the description box and a link for part 5 of that little documentary. For those of you that are still here, I'm sure most people already clicked away. It is a Shabbat, so I share this lightly. Please don't anybody look at this or do it on Shabbat. I just wanted to share my wife's store on ancientpathrevivals.com, or just ancientpathrevivals.com. You go to the store. The reason I'm bringing this up is because we've got some shirts left over from Passover, just a few left, I think. So if you'd like to get one of those, there's still a few left. Now also we have Hebrew Fest shirts left over. We have this one, and then we have that one, and there's some left there. So if any of you guys are interested in a shirt, my wife has a store. And then also Sukkot, I just put the registration site up for Sukkot 2024. It's going to be in mid-October. I think check-in day is the 16th of October. Yeah, I think 16th. Anyways, so we do have tickets there. There's a cost, just because stuff costs money. The campground costs money. The food costs money. Everything, the gas, everything costs money. Paying the workers to put up the tent and everything costs money. That's why I have to have ticket prices. However, we are also offering free tickets for those of you that can't afford it. We're hoping that some people in the body will help donate to cover some of those costs for people taking advantage of the free tickets. And for those of you that are low on money and want to come out to a feast day, I want you to come. And so just come. Don't be like, I don't want to be a burden. You would give someone else an opportunity to be a blessing to help fund you to come and take care of the ticket prices and food and that kind of stuff. So really just we want to celebrate with you. So if there's any way you can come out to Southwest Missouri for Sukkot, come on out. Yah willing, we'll have an amazing and blessed time. So with that being said, brothers and sisters, let's pray, and we are finished. Father Yahweh, we just come before you and bless you in Yahushua's name. Thank you for the gift you've given us of your Son, of the Shabbat, and all your commandments. So yeah, we bless you. Please bless our week here to come, and help us to be lights to help bring people to the truth, Father. Help us in our lives. Deliver us in the name of Yahushua. Amen. Hallelujah.